Yeah, you were all set.
Yes.
It's always good.
Yeah.
That is cool. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Danvers Zoning Board of Appeals. We are now in session. I would ask that you turn off cell phones, silent them, so we're not interrupted. Please don't be that person. I'd like to start off by introducing the zoning board members. Down to my right is Jeff Sauer. Tonight, our clerk is Ken Scholes. Myself, John Bowner, as the chairman. To my left is Ken Jarvinen, and all the way down the end is Corrine Doherty. Here from our planning division, our planning director, Mr. Brian Zakelli, over there to the right. A little part of business first for us. Zoning board members, we were in receipt of minutes from the November 13th meeting. If there's no further discussion, could I get a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved.
And a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Folks, tonight, we're gonna jump a little bit. Our clerk will read the case. As he's completed reading it, we'll ask that you come to the podium up here and announce your name. Tell us about your project, what you'd like to do. From there, we'll bring it back to the zoning board members, which we may or may not ask questions of the applicant. From there, we'll open it up for public discussion. And again, we're on Danvers Cable, and we ask that you, announce your name and address. Please speak clearly into the microphone. I've noticed on some other town meetings I watch when they don't speak into the mic, it's very tough for people at home to hear. It also is very difficult for the person who records the minutes from these meetings too. So I'm just a reminder about that. From there, we will close the public portion of the discussion, and we will let the applicant wrap up, and from there, the zoning board members will deliberate. Based on how those deliberations go, you can kind of sense on whether or not we're in favor or not. If there's things we would like to have you continue, and we'll give you your options at that point. I'll just remind applicants, if we do take a vote and you're denied, a denial means you must wait at least 2 years before bringing anything back before us. And I think that kind of covers it all. So with that said, we are going to change the order, and Mr. Clerk, if you could read the first case.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our first case is 8 Tibbetts Avenue, zoned R2. Request for a finding under Section 3.17 and for a variance from Table 2 of the Danvers zoning bylaw to allow the demolition of a pre-existing non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot and the construction of a new dwelling and garage that will be located closer to the property line and street than allowed as of right. Request is made by Annalise and Kenny Hill, docket 23-5052.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much. My name is Nancy McCann. I'm here on behalf of the applicants, Annalise and Kenny Hill. Mr. and Mrs. Hill are here this evening. With me tonight also is Bob Griffin, the project engineer, and Eric Jardet, I think I pronounced that correctly, the project architect. And we are requesting, as indicated in the notice, a finding and variance relief to allow the removal of an existing 1920s single-family home that's fallen into a great deal of disrepair, if you've gone down and looked at it, and replace that with a new single-family home. The single-family home that's proposed is a small two-bedroom, two-bath home on this lot. Brian, do you have a picture of the existing home? I did submit to you with the application package. You should have a photograph of the existing home in the snow.
Yes.
The home was, again, constructed in about 1920, and it's certainly fallen into disrepair. The applicant appeared before the Danvers Preservation Commission back in October, and the Preservation Commission determined that the dwelling is not historically significant. And the town archivist even found, and I'll quote him, the structure is quite derelict and bereft of any notable architectural style or detail. I don't hear that very often from the town archivist, so I thought I'd just mention it here. The property is located in the R2 zoning district. The site is undersized for the zoning district. As you know, our R2 zoning district requires 20,000 square feet. This lot has about 8,200 square feet. It is also a narrow lot, having 64 feet of frontage, where in the R2 district, as you know, 125 feet of frontage is required. So it's a non-conforming lot, significantly smaller than one would find in the R2 zoning district. So the applicant engaged a professional architect and engineer to design a home that's going to work with the site conditions and provide, again, a modest-sized home for Mr. and Mrs. Hill. They intend to reside in the home. We have, as indicated, irregular type of shape given the size and the narrowness, and we also are impacted by the waterfront resource district, which impacts this site. We also have another interesting condition on this site that the applicants and the engineer and architect were asked to work with, and that is an existing very large silver maple tree that we're trying to save. That's a 36-inch silver maple tree, which is kind of unique, and we'd like to keep it and preserve that tree. So that certainly impacted the design of the home that you're going to see. I did meet with planning staff back several months ago to discuss the location of the existing dwelling and where the new dwelling would be, and we were asked to move the dwelling closer to the street than the existing dwelling in order to avoid the riverfront resource no disturb zones as much as possible. So that's another item that we had to deal with regard to this particular site. So with those items in mind, the engineer and architect have come up with a very nice design for the Hills' new home, and we are requesting a finding under Section 3.17 of the zoning bylaw to allow this reconstruction of a non-conforming house on a non-conforming lot. We do need zoning relief in the form of a front setback variance as well as a side setback variance, although the side setback variance is being made more conforming than the existing condition. The existing home is a half a foot off of the existing lot line. We are also proposing to remove a shed that, again, has fallen into disrepair, that's located actually right on the lot line. So with that, I think I will turn this over to Bob Griffin and then to Eric to walk you through the plans, and then I'll sum up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Nancy, and good evening. As Nancy indicated, it's such a very long, narrow lot. It's
Mr.
only
Griffin, for the record, please.
Robert Griffin, Griffin Engineering, Beverly, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
And if we can get the site plan back up, please. I just want to point out a couple of the constraints that we had. Nancy did mention the narrow and long shape of the lot. The lot's only 50 feet wide from really side to side, about 240 feet down the middle from the street line to the shoreline. The large 36-inch maple that we're trying to save is right there. You can see how the garage and the covered porch and the entrance sort of all work around that silver maple. And I know it's not your issue tonight, but we also are moving utilities and drainage for the all around that silver maple, trying to make sure that we don't impact that during construction. There's another large silver maple on the shoreline, and that one would also be saved. So by protecting these trees, we think we're respectful of the environment, respectful of the neighbors. We also like the positioning of the house in that you can see there's an existing fence along here that provides some screening to 6 Tibbets, and so the house, by being roughly in the same location as the existing house, lines up with that. So we're not really presenting any view issues to any of the neighboring properties. The existing parcel is served by a driveway located here on the right side as you enter. And so the cars would normally park here. A nice feature of this design is that we have a garage, so that will protect the environment, so that drippings from the car are not going to be going onto the ground and then washing into the ocean or anything like that. We're also going to be taking roof runoff from the building and putting that into the ground, so again, minimizing runoff from the property. Nancy did mention the need for a front yard variance. The 15.6 is the distance from the street line to the corner of the building. We went out and we measured the other buildings on Tibbetts Avenue and found out that the average distance from the street line to the house is 19.7. So this is about a 4-foot reduction from the average house setback along Tibbetts Avenue. In actuality, it's going to look much further than that, in that it's a little hard to see, but you can see the edge of the road here, and it runs along the letter A, V, E, and Avenue. So there's actually another 14 feet from the street line to the edge of the pavement here. So it ends up being almost 30 feet from the pavement to the front corner of the house. So it really doesn't look like it's going to encroach in any front yards, particularly when you drive up and down the street. It just happens that this corner of the cul-de-sac, the street line is very close to or very far away from the edge of pavement as compared to other locations on Tibbetts Avenue. So this house sits a little further away from the street than you would think when you look at the street. There's the shed there that we're going to be removing. We're also going to be using some pervious materials where we can and stepping stones so that we're minimizing runoff from the property. Doing all these things that we can do to minimize any potential impact associated with the project. Eric's got a very thoughtful building design that has worked well with the neighbors, and I know that the Hills have been visiting with many of the other neighbors on Tibbetts Avenue. Nancy will probably talk about that a little bit more as we're done, but I think they've met with the abutters, they've met with 6 other nearby property owners and have tried to knock on every door that they can in the neighborhood. And as I understand it, have received no objection at all to the proposed layout or the proposed plans. So I think it's a very nice, again, thoughtful design. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eric to explain the building. Thank you.
Mr. Griffin, actually, before you do,
yeah.
I think we had, and I'm going to refer to Mr. Zacchelli, because I thought there was a little confusion to me on the average setback calculation of 19.7. So
Yeah.
maybe if you can expand on what you discovered.
Sure. So in the regulations, it basically says that if anything is more than the maximum allowed, which was 30, the front setback is supposed to be 30 feet. So anything more than 30 feet, when you're measuring the average distance, you actually just max it out at 30. So even if the front setback is 70 feet, you're still only using, for the calculation, you're still only using 30. So that actually brings it down from 19.7 to 16. So it actually helps the applicant.
Your case, yeah.
To go through that work, we would request that they just redo that quick math so we can have it on file. So it is 16, so that anyone else that wants to do this on Tibbetts would be able to go to 16 without having to come to the board. So it's just a small technicality in the calculation.
Does that make sense?
It does. I'll have to admit, I read the language, and it really wasn't clear about that. What do you do if it's over a 30-foot kind of question? So we took the conservative view, but we'll be happy to make that correction and get it correct.
Yeah, I just wanted to clear that up. Okay. Thank you. Continue.
And just one more quick thing, I forgot to mention it, but we are in a flood zone here. And so the entire lot is within the flood zone, and so that proposes additional wetland constraints. But to deal with that, we're going to be raising the floor up. We're going to have a crawl space with flood vents, as we have done with other buildings in this neighborhood that are in the flood zone. So that's the way to make sure that the building complies with the building code. Thank you.
Very good, thanks.
Hi, my name is Eric Jorday. I'm the architect. I have worked with Kenny and Annalise for a good six months now. I've known them, and so we've gone through many design iterations. And they would like a very modern home. So there's symbiotic relationship between the indoors and the outside, with lots of tall glass capturing the river views, and we'll have a large covered porch that wraps around in the rear yard. And then we used a triangular bay, so there would be some views in the middle of the structure. So every part of the structure will have visual access to the river. So by moving the garage towards the front setback, we were allowed to have a breezeway that keeps away from the silver maple. And that breezeway will actually center on that silver maple, which will be having the architecture and the tree really relate to each other. So the notion is we have covered access from the front yard, and then we could get into a covered breezeway without getting rained on or give Annalisa and Kenny an opportunity to get into their house without getting wet. I guess the next slide would be, this would be a rear elevation, the riverside elevation. So you can see the 8-foot sliders. Everything on the top is 8 feet, and so it's floor-to-ceiling glass with gliders that go left and right. And so we're keeping with the geometry, the low slope pitch, kind of using that geometry as we go through the whole building. And these indicate the floodplain that Bob was talking about. So there's going to be stainless steel vents that allow water to come through, and that prevents hydrostatic pressure, equalizes that without having debris going through. So it works pretty well. I think there's 3 houses that have that now in Tibbetts.
Anything else you want to present?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
I will just wrap it up with a few points. For the finding that we're requesting, we would suggest that removing the dilapidated old house and constructing a new home on this site with as thoughtful a design as been presented to you tonight is certainly not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood, and in fact would be a benefit to the neighborhood. The front setback is even less than a setback variance than we thought, about a 1.5 foot, it sounds like, on a setback variance requested from the front setback. And again, that's even less impactful given the distance between the front lot line and the actual pavement of the street. And the side setback is actually being improved over the existing conditions. The applicants, Annalise and Kenny, did meet, as Bob said, with their direct abutters at 6 and 10 Tibbetts Ave, and they had no objections to the proposed plan and were encouraged by the new building, and they welcomed the saving of the tree. Annalise and Kenny also met with 11, 13, 17, 19, 21, and 23 Tibbetts and got a similar response, and they did reach out to the other folks on Tibbetts and left some information in their mailboxes with contact information if they wanted to get in touch with the Hills with any questions that they had. So they certainly did reach out. We would be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Let's start down there with you, Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any questions, actually.
Okay, Ken.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only question I had is if you had heard from 6 or 10 Tibbetts, and you had, so that's the only question I had.
Thank you, Ken and Jeff.
There's a new construction like right next door, right?
Yes.
What is the setback, front setback for them? It seems pretty close to the road, if you know.
Their front setback was, I do have that one. I have it right here, actually.
The table here.
You know, Bob. What's their front setback? Was it 20.6?
Yeah.
20.6 on 10 Tibbetts.
Okay, I was just wondering. All right, that's it. That's all I get.
All set. Korea.
Just a couple questions. You state in your project narrative that you've already met with planning and conservation.
Yes.
So if we grant the relief tonight, what is your next step, and when do you think demolition would happen?
I met with staff for Brian Zacchelli and Georgia Pendergast. The notice of intent for Conservation Commission has been filed. I believe the hearing is second week of December. So we'll be meeting with them. And then demolition, probably shortly thereafter.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Corinne. Attorney McCann, is this building empty now? Is anyone living in it?
It's empty now.
Okay. And the covered porch was mentioned. Is that enclosed or open?
Open, is it towards the back?
Come on up to the mic if you could. No, you show a covered porch between the main structure and the garage.
Yes, that's going to be open.
That's open, so
Yes.
not enclosed, okay.
That's right.
And what about, maybe you stay right up there, what's the height of this building? I'm sure it meets the height
Yeah, it's under,
requirement, but I'm just curious.
I think it's 24, I'm using my memory, it's 24 point,
24 to the midpoint or 24 to the
no,
peak?
from the grade to, actually use the, Danvers has a unusual way, they take the existing grade to the point, so I think it's
Midpoint.
24 to,
24 feet.
Yep.
Okay. And, I mean, this maybe more on the comment side, but you mentioned it, this does look modernish to me, which I'm not sure is similar to too many other houses on Tibbetts. Was there any, I guess, what were the considerations for maybe a more old school look or a more of a look that is similar to other homes on Tibbetts?
are you asking me,
I'm
should it be,
asking you, yeah.
okay. I feel like you should be able to design in the way that your client
Yeah, no,
wants.
you can. I'm
Right.
just curious, was other designs considered?
Yes. Trying to stay contextual to the neighborhood, height and placement.
And really, so the consideration to have this 19-foot covered porch was strictly based on the maple, the tree, okay. All right, I don't have any further questions. I will go out to the public on this. We're here for 8 Tibbetts Ave, if anybody would like to speak or be heard. And I see none. Okay. We'll deliberate. Jeff, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I also thought it was a little modern looking for the neighborhood, but there is no doubt that the existing condition is so terrible, you know, it's in really bad shape, and I think that the neighbors would be happy with anything new there. You're improving the side lot condition. I don't have a problem with being a foot under the average distance, so yeah, I'm all for this. I'm a yes.
Thank you, Jeff. Ken?
Yeah, I'm a yes. It's obvious that house needs some repair work, and tear down is obviously what has to happen. And I've said before, this is one of my new favorite neighborhoods. I never even knew it was there till a few projects ago, and I love this neighborhood. I'm a yes.
Thank you. And Ken?
I'm a yes as well.
Thank you. Kareem?
I agree, this is a major improvement to what's there now, so I am a yes.
Yeah, I too like it, and I'm out of order here a little bit, Attorney McCann, but one question I did want to ask. The last project that came before us on Tibbetts showed car lifts in the garage. Does this garage have that as well?
No car lifts.
No car lifts, okay. Yeah, I too think that's, as Ken has mentioned, this neighborhood's taken quite a transformation. The design's not one I particularly think fits, but as the architect pointed out, it's what the owners want to do, and I think it's a vast improvement over what's there. So I too will vote for it. And if I could get a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, I move to issue a finding. I move to issue a finding under Section 3.17 to allow for the reconstruction of a single-family home after voluntary demolition of an existing dwelling. The proposed extension is not more substantially detrimental than the current structure.
I'll second that.
I've got a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None.
I further move to issue a variance under Table 2 of the Danvers Zoning Bylaw, as the proposed structure will be closer to the front and side setbacks than permitted as of right, and to allow the reconstruction of the house with an increase in gross floor area and side coverage, and that this condition does not affect other properties or structures in the same zoning district. A literal enforcement of the zoning bylaw would involve substantial hardship to the applicant. Granting this variance will not create a substantial detriment to the public good and will not nullify or derogate from the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw.
Second.
I've got a motion and second. Attorney McCann, my discussion here was about the setback. That will be corrected in paperwork.
Yes, we'll submit a
Submit it to
revised
the planning
calculation to Mr. Zakelli.
Very good. I've got a motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good.
Thank you very much.
Good luck with your project.
Good luck. You want to go right to 99? Okay.
98, yeah.
I mean 98, sorry.
Okay, moving along.
Our next case is 98 Newberry Street. This is highway corridor zoned. Request for a finding from Section 3.10.b of the Danvers Zoning Bylaw to allow the expansion of existing mobile home park to provide 35 new mobile homes on site, where 98 currently exist. The site is 7.09 acres and located in the highway corridor zone. Request is made by Tamar Properties LLC, care of Nancy McCann Esquire, docket 23-5038.
Good evening.
Good evening again. Thank you very much. My name is Nancy McCann. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Timar Properties, LLC. Steve Tedesco, manager, is here this evening. Also with me tonight is Will Shkuda, the project engineer. And we are requesting a finding to allow the expansion of the existing mobile home park. There are currently 72 units in the mobile home park. It was incorrectly listed in the narrative, and we corrected that during the last hearing. And we were proposing to add 35 new mobile homes to the site to provide a much-needed home ownership option for the community, for those who can't afford to purchase or even rent a market-rate home. The park began in the 1940s, and back on September 25th, we made a full presentation to the board at that time of the proposal. We received comments from the board and from the public, and since that time, we have made revisions to the application and to the plan. The board had asked us to consider reducing the number of proposed units from 35 units under the original proposal. You asked that we provide some additional open space. You asked that we improve the appearance of the site with some new speed limit signs and to do a general cleanup of the site. And since that hearing, the applicant and the project engineer have made some really significant renovations and revisions to the site as well as to the proposal. As indicated in my submission on November 16th, which is the revised plan that's up on the board right now, the applicant has reduced the number of proposed units from 35 units to 31 units. All of the units meet the highway corridor zone required setbacks. There is parking provided for each unit. There are also 10 additional new visitor parking spaces provided. We have offered a substantial area of green space that's either been added or retained, and the gate has been added to the plan, which will eliminate the potential for any vehicular access out to Center Street. Those are the plan revisions. In addition, the applicant has undertaken the following steps in response to the comments that we received. New posted speed limit signs have been, they were ordered after the last meeting and they have been installed. The park sewer pump station has been cleared of vegetation and cleaned up that entire area with new crushed stone. Areas of debris or personal property have also been addressed, and we have also added to the plan a chart which indicates since the applicant's acquisition of the property about 10 years ago, there has been quite a significant overhauling, changing of the number of older units, mobile homes that had been on the site, already replaced. During the applicant's ownership, there have been 14 old mobile homes replaced with new mobile homes. There are 4 that will be replaced very soon, and 1 is currently under replacement. So the applicant has replaced 19 of the older mobile homes with newer homes. In addition, the mobile home park itself has been changed from a septic system to a sewer system, and that's under the applicant's ownership. The dirt driveways have all been paved. Some 2 new pedestal mailbox locations have been added. Their landscaping was done along the front, and again, new park signage has been installed. What I'd like to do, Mr. Chairman, is to ask Will, the project engineer, to come up and review the plan changes with you that have been made since the original submission.
Sure.
Good evening, Will Scooter from the Moore and Cameron Group. Yes, just quickly going over the plans. Basically, we took the park and kind of condensed it slightly and pulled it away from all the residential abutters on Center Street. And more or less, we lost 4 units, but the park is now kind of more condensed. We also, just to kind of put a little variety into this, we did show different size units rather than just one standard unit, because they do come in different sizes depending on what the homeowners kind of establish. The stormwater system that we're kind of showing right now is preliminary. We kind of just left areas for potential areas that we could use in the future. Again, as Nancy stated on the existing conditions plan, we kind of highlighted all the units by number, just in case you're wondering of what units have been replaced or are in the works of getting replaced over the coming months or years. We also kind of just showed areas for potential snow stockpiling and open green space that you guys commented on previously. So that's the bulk of the changes. And the last thing, as Nancy stated too, we did show some visitor parking spaces, which we're showing them right in those spots, but those are flexible.
Do you have a pointer? Can you point that out on the plan? This is visitor parking?
Correct, yep.
And I know from, well, I don't want to ask questions now. I'll let you continue. Go ahead.
That's pretty much the bulk of the changes.
Okay, so you pulled the, I think it was 4 units that were over to the right, closest to Center Street off. And we've kind of shuffled what the other 31 were laid out as. And I see the top ones have turned. I think before you had 6 up there, and now just 3.
Correct, yep. So, yeah, we try to pull those as far away from the abutter again, kind of just left them linear along the proposed road.
Okay, anything else?
Nope.
Okay.
Should the board grant the finding that we're requesting, and again, all we are requesting is a finding all of the other aspects of the project comply with the Highway Corridor Zone zoning district. So this is simply a finding to expand the existing nonconforming use. This has been a nonconforming use on this site since the early 1940s. And we would certainly, as I argued at the last meeting and in my application, what we're proposing is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. All access is going to be out through Route 1 as it is now, and again, the gate has been proposed, which will eliminate any potential for access out to Center Street. Some other items that came up at the last meeting, or since the last meeting, stormwater items. This project will require a stormwater permit issued by the Danvers DPW. Landscaping, gate details, and snow storage are all items that would be under the purview of the Danvers Planning Board, as this project would need to go through site plan review by the Planning Board should the finding be granted. At the last meeting, Gardner Trask, chairman of the Affordable Housing Trust, was here and spoke on behalf of this, the need for home ownership options for folks who can't afford market rate type of units. I went through the financial aspects of that at the last meeting. These units typically new are $199,000 for a new mobile home, and the new, or not even new, home sale prices in Danvers for a single-family home run about $605 on average now. So this certainly meets a need, which is one of the charges and purposes of the zoning bylaw. I think that is what I have as an update. We did make a full presentation at the last hearing, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Attorney McCann.
Chair, just a quick, we did get a message from someone online that the audio is going a little in and out, so anyone who does come up to the microphone, please make sure you're speaking into the microphone loudly and clearly. Thank you.
Okay. Zoning board members as well, you've all been warned. All right, Jeff, let's start down there with you. I'm sorry, Corinne, let's start with you.
Attorney McCann, it looks from the two sets of plans, the old plans and the new plans, as if this is more like uniform and the way it's set out and the way the rows are kind of drawn on the new plan. So I just want to review how the construction happens as far as the pads go. So will the pads be actually installed the way they look on the plan right now?
Yes.
So, okay. And then, refresh my memory, do people purchase these mobile homes from the owner, or do they purchase them themselves, or do they have the option of doing it either way?
They have the option of doing it either way.
Okay.
Yes, but they are purchasing from the mobile home manufacturer, and they need to get their own financing and all of that sort of thing, and then they can bring the mobile home is delivered to the pad site.
Okay. But as far as where it's positioned, it would be on the pad, and that, once they're all installed, it will look like this?
Yes.
Okay.
Attorney McCann, if you can just bring that mic a little closer to you.
Closer to me? Wow.
Any additional questions?
That's it for now. I might have more later, but that's it for now.
Ken J.
At the last meeting, there was some mentioning of potentially a play area. I know you're going to have more green space, but is there any play area for kids?
There's certainly plenty of room for that. There's no green area proposed there's no play area, tot lot, often they're called. There's nothing like that proposed here, but there's a lot of green space that's available.
All right, that's good. All right, thanks. That's all I got.
Thank you. Mr. Scholes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a question about visitor parking, but we kind of went through that. And I couldn't remember if this was going to site review, and it definitely is.
Yes.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Jeff.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I have the same question that Corinne has, is in that this new plan condenses the pads together a little bit. And there are quite a few occupied units right now. And so for those mobile homes that the pads need to be adjusted, how is that going to happen? Are they going to be doing the pads sequentially, or remove all of the homes and redo all the pads at once? Or, how does that work? Because I can't imagine displacing a whole park full of people, rearranging everything, and then bringing it all back again.
The existing homes are in the lighter color on this plan.
Yeah.
The new homes are in the darker color, and those are in an area where there are not homes now.
So there's going to be no
There's
pads that get torn up and
displacement.
moved.
Correct. Yes. This is an over
So it's going to be all
7-acre
new
site.
construction. Okay.
Yes.
Are all those pads going in at once, you think, or?
Oh, I don't know. Probably not.
No.
Probably not. It would be phased in.
Do we have a timeline for how long this is all going to take?
If you're going to talk come up to the mic, identify yourself, please.
Steve Tedesco from T-Mart Properties. It depends, we'll be putting in probably 10 at a time, so, and then there'll be people buying them. So, I'd say within a year, it should be full.
Okay, thank you.
Might just stay up there.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm all
Yeah,
done.
well-
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
It was mentioned that there's different size trailers.
Right.
So I'm assuming you're going to make one standard pad that accommodates the largest size trailer?
Well, it's going to accommodate whatever home they choose. So there's like 50-footers or 60-footers.
But all the pads will be 60,
Accommodate-
for instance?
There'll be
even if someone
50s or
gets a
60s.
50-footer?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And what are the sizes? Is that the largest, 60 feet?
60, yes.
And what's the smallest?
Smallest would be about a 52.
Okay, so it's, the range is 52 feet
Right.
to 60 feet.
Right, and the pads would be,
And how big a pad is it to accommodate a 60-foot trailer?
it's the same size,
Same size, okay.
same size.
And,
And they're all HUD-approved pads, so they're all governed by HUD.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I say all the pads that'll be putting in are all governed by HUD, so there's a certain type of pad that we put in.
I see, so it's standard.
Exactly. They'll all be
And
the
is
same.
that standard for,
Massachusetts.
based on Massachusetts, or is it federal?
It was federal.
It's federal, very good. And, Attorney McCann, let's talk a little bit, or maybe we need your engineer. And I can't see the numbers, despite all the pairs of glasses I wear. The top three, is that units 1, 2, and 3 proposed?
Yes.
Okay. I think there's a little question on whether or not those units are in the 100-foot, are they within 100 feet of the
Yes.
set?
They
are.
would require Conservation Commission approval.
Those three.
Yes.
And so that's something we're planning to, provided you get through this board, to seek out.
Yes, and that's typically filed simultaneously with site plan review.
Okay, so play it out with me a little bit. So say this board approves, but you go to that board and they don't approve those three units, so they just come off the plan, or do you force back here?
We wouldn't have to come back here. They would be taken off the plan, just as any site plan type of modification.
Okay,
We are seeking approval for 31
31, okay.
units in the locations shown here. The order of conditions, however, we are not doing any work within no build or no disturb zone.
That part, yeah.
So it is truly a matter of conditioning the work, the installation of the pads, as opposed to a, no, you can't do it.
And how many feet into the 100 are those three units?
Will? What's that? So they're in the outer 50 of the 100 feet. So it's the closest 50 to the wetlands. We're not in there.
Okay.
We're in the outer.
In the second
Yes.
50-foot section?
Yes.
Okay. And, you did mention a lot of the improvements that have gone on by this owner over the 10-year ownership. And I just want to get clear, so 14, I'm assuming, of the worst trailers were replaced, and that has been complete.
Yes.
And one's in process right now?
One is in process right now, and
4 more planned?
4 are in the queue.
And that's out of the 72?
Yes.
Okay. And so one of the questions I had was about, and I think a lot of the neighbors brought it up as well, was kind of the state of the park itself, and you addressed the signage and things of that nature, which is great. It's all good whether this approval goes through or not, right? But one of the things that I thought was really jumped out at me was, the abandoned vehicles, and I think it sounds like ongoing maybe litigation or
Yes.
situations. Where's that at right now?
Okay. The park has multi-page rules and regulations that each owner signs.
Yep.
as part of their
Kinda like a
leasing the
lease type of
pad.
situation?
Yes.
Yes.
And they're very explicit as to what's required, not only for maintenance of the individual homes, maintenance of the areas around the homes, and general conduct throughout the park. Currently, there are 3 actions that are pending in court to enforce those rules and regulations. So the applicant does take that seriously. At the last meeting, the manager of the park was here, and he spoke to that as well. But that litigation is brought when it's needed, and it's a hard thing to do. That's not something not hard legally, certainly, but you try to work with your homeowners within the park and assist them as much as possible. And there are certainly rules and regulations about not having unregistered vehicles and not having debris around.
So in the case of these 3 actions that are ongoing, the end result is obviously the desire of the owner's compliance, but if it's deemed that is not possible, then is it an eviction situation? How is
Yes.
that? Okay, so then those owners are asked to vacate, but the mobile home itself doesn't leave the property, or does it? Because they're the owner of the mobile home.
They are the owner of the mobile home,
Okay,
so
So
they
there would
must
be
leave.
some turnover where this mobile home would physically get removed. along
that could happen.
That could happen.
That would be
That's
the worst case
extreme,
result.
right? Extreme,
Yes.
okay. All right, I'm just trying to understand the process. And I guess a follow-up question to that, so you have 3 cases that are ongoing. Or should I ask, how many other, outside of the 3 that have had to go to this extreme action, are also, kind of in that category out of the 72?
That's it, the
So
3.
just these 3 properties?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I don't think I have any other questions. Anyone else from the board? Yeah, go ahead, Corinne.
I do. Of the units in the first phase of this mobile home park, how many are vacant?
Do you have any vacant? None.
They're all,
There are 4 that are currently undergoing replacement, and those are vacant.
okay,
But other than that, they're full.
okay.
So
And
the unit's 100% full, the park's 100%
Yes.
full right now, okay?
okay. Now, with regard to the new construction phase, what is the construction process to put the pads in? Would you, like pave the street first, and then you put the pad down?
All right, if you're gonna speak, please go to the microphone.
The pads get put in first because it's all rebar and underground utilities and so forth. So the pads get put in first, then the roads get paved.
Okay, so if you're going to do this in 3 phases, like 10, 10, and 11, that means that you would install the pads, and then you would pave that section, and then you
Correct.
would do that 2 more times.
Right.
And then how would the construction vehicles enter and exit? Like, would you use that road off the back?
No, we've never used, we've always used the ones on Route 1. There's two inlets coming in.
Okay,
So
all
we
right,
always come
so-
off of Route 1.
All right, so you would use that?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out what a disruption it would be for the people who are in the existing homes to have 3 times,
It wouldn't be that bad because we'd probably do like a road at a time, and just bring them in.
okay.
And we've been doing it, like I say, we bought the park 10 years ago. And that was set up like that since the 40s. So we're trying to fix it.
Okay,
When people pass away, we buy the trailer and we put a new one in there. Or if people want to move, we buy it so we can put new ones in there to bring the park up to today's standards.
okay.
We can't stop moving them around because they already put that in, they started like that, so it's hard to move them around. What we did when we bought it, we gave them the option, if they want to buy new homes, we'll give them to them at cost and we'll do all the construction at cost, and they can get rid of their old home and we'll put a new one in. And in this area here, the same thing would go on. We'd give them the opportunity at a discounted rate if they want to move from there into the new park or the addition.
Okay. And what is cost?
Yeah, well, it depends on the size and depends on what they want inside, because it's just like building a home. You want stainless steel, you want rugs, there's a lot of variables to it.
Right, but Attorney McCann said they're on average about 200, 1,000, so what would cost be?
It could be, well, it could be 10%, it could be 15% off. I mean, and it depends, what, like I say, what the options are.
Okay. Now, you were mentioning earlier, too, that they're either 52 feet or 60 feet.
Right.
When you put those pads in, it looks as if, like the front side all is in line and the back side is all in line. So if there's a discrepancy, is that discrepancy in the middle where the two units meet?
Well, we would try to line them up so that you have, like, say, the 50s on one side and the 60s on the other. Try
Okay.
to coordinate them so they match up right.
Okay, all right. No, because I think that's part of maybe the issue in the front side is that, but they weren't lined up like they are on the back side.
Because when we took some of them out and put new ones in, we tried to straighten them out because they were all going different ways, so that's,
Okay,
it's an old problem that we're trying to fix.
okay, all right, thank you.
Go ahead, stay right up
Yeah.
there. So
I'm all done, thank you.
I'm assuming, Corinne, just like a lot of the roads were laid out back in the day, right?
Yeah.
So this was
Exactly. When we
very,
bo-
very hodgepodge, right?
It was, and when we bought it, it was all dirt roads. As Nancy said, not only did we do the driveways, we did all the roads over. And we put it all on public sewer.
So with regard to this potential addition, so I think Corinne asked this, and I just want to confirm it. So this would be similar to, say, a new subdivision where you're basically putting the infrastructure
Right.
with the electrical, sewer,
Exactly.
and everything down
Everything goes underneath.
underneath, then the pad's poured, and then you hot top over.
Exactly.
Button it all up.
Exactly. Because just to give you an idea, all our main sewer goes right out here. It's
Okay.
already.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's already built up from when we bought it 10 years ago.
So you'd just be tying into that
Exactly,
already
because we
existing
made
line.
it bigger.
And there's no capacity issues with that?
None at all, because we oversized it.
And these are not things, Attorney McCann, that would get discussed at planning board, or they would?
Oh, sure. The location of utilities is part of
In
the
detail,
sheets
okay.
that are submitted to the planning board.
Okay, great. Any additional questions from the board? No. Okay, I'm gonna go out to the public. I know we were in receipt of several PowerPoints and things of this nature. I would ask that you keep your questions through the chairman pertaining to this site and clarifications you're looking for, and if you keep your summaries, to the point. So, with that said, yeah. Please identify yourself.
Yes. Brian. So I'm Cameron Zarine. I own, my wife and I own the 168 Center Street. And this time I came prepared with that. So let's go to the next slide. So I'm basically an electrical engineer. I've been working in the industry for about 31, 32 years. And my wife is a dentist practicing in Danvers for almost 20 years. And she's also very active in the community, providing all different sorts of dental care for people. So they kind of like, this issue was touched before, and I want to quickly go over it. So when we talk, and I didn't know much about these trailer parks until this issue came up and I started reading through it. So there are two types. There is a co-op, and there is a kind of like big corporations or investors. They purchase these and kind of like lease them out or rent them out. And the industry now and everyone in the news and everything else, they are moving toward this co-op. And the co-op is that the mobile home owner are the owner of the park as well. So they basically own it, almost like a condominium. So then in that sense, they are homeowners. They purchase the home. Otherwise, in this situation, they purchase lumber and pipes and things like that sitting on somebody else's land, and if they don't want it, you have to take it. So that's kind of like that one. And when somebody kind of like in the situation of investors owning it, there is also an uneven power structure that gets created because, and we have been also kind of like at the receiving end of it in a different situation, and I very quickly go over it. We owned a commercial condo near Liberty Tree Mall.
All right, I'm going to interrupt for a moment, only
Yeah.
because I...
So you want me to
think
go
the board
faster?
understand- Well, hold on, the board understands this, but
So
what the applicant is here before us is not whether these are co-op or not. They're looking for an
Fair.
expansion of their park.
Sure.
So
So let's go to the next one.
let's
That's
focus on
fair.
that.
That's fair. Let's go to the next one. And this is kind of like basically I'm showing this is in Massachusetts, this is in England, and this could be very pleasant. Moving on to the next one. So this is our kind of like unit, our basically building. It has a residential unit and it has a commercial unit. And what I'm basically want to show that the residential unit is it's a house. It's standing on its own. It has its own driveway. It has its own utilities. It has a backyard. And a commercial is separate from it. So, and also the town is kind of like recognizes this as a residential, tax us as residential, utilities are under residential. And interesting it to me that the trailer park is also being considered from a taxation as residential. Next one. So I wanted to kind of like go over this. I'm still a little bit confused. I'm trying to understand kind of like exactly what changes has happened. So based on from what I understood, if you are in the residential 3, you have to have a 100 feet of a setback if someone wants to build something there. So now the question here is what relief are we looking for? So from what I understood, that wasn't the relief. So then they had to come back 100 feet. And these units were actually in violation of the setback to begin with, based on the original plan. Then, sorry, can I get some water? So then, the other issue here is that this roadway in the original plan is shifted. And this is kind of like a clockwise 90 degrees rotated version of this plan. So if you look at this road, you see this edge of this road matches the back of this mobile home. And here in the old plan, that's not the case. It's actually in front of it. So this road was pushed back, basically. And this would have put these 3 deep in the violation of the setback, so that's why they are rotated. So that's kind of like that one.
All right, but that setback, they're going to go before another board.
That's why I'm just saying that if you remember in that September 26th, we said too many, reduce the numbers. And what I'm asking here is what number has been reduced? They had to. This was in violation to begin with.
Well, they detailed that already. They went down from
Okay.
35 to 31 units.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that this plan from 35 to 31 was not because of us. It wasn't because of the concerns of the neighbors. They had to do it. So because of the zoning of the setback requirements. So now another thing I want to mention is that look at the distances between these. So this tall one is this one. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and the other one, this one, is the one that was added and everything is shifted. So from the sky view, look at the distances. And then look at this distance compared to this distance. So we are really sardining people next to each other and packing them as closely possible. Then another thing I want to mention is they kind of like believe it or not, there is a wildlife here. There are turkeys, there are coyotes, there are foxes, and all sorts of different animals. And they kind of like roam around between the wetland, and they come here in this empty space, go back there, and kind of like they have a life. So by putting this, we are basically breaking that continuity and pushing them here and eventually destroying their habitat. Another problem I have with this plan is that they are dedicating this as a snow pileup. So what I think what is going to happen is that all the snows of this trailer park is going to get pushed in here. And we all know this is New England. It goes up, the ground is still frozen, still melting. All of the salt, sand, whatever is in it, comes right into my property and destroys my landscape. And it also, the land goes this way, the slope this way and this way. So it gets inside of my basement of my residential unit. It kind of like comes, destroys the parking lot and everything else there. So that's another thing. And the last one I wanted to mention with this plan is the gate. So there is an easement here. And that's why they kind of like, they have to put the gate here. So my question is, if these are so tightly packed, imagine somebody wants to go out, has to come here, does a major 90-degree turn, which is kind of like by itself, if somebody drives a big truck, which a lot of people do, they're going to be stuck here, comes out. So what is this person, why not just going, whoop, go out? And that would happen because there is nothing here. Then, yeah, that's all I wanted to say on this slide. Can we go quickly to the next one?
Okay, well, thank you.
Well,
you
let
raised some
me
good
let me
points.
just
I'll
give me 2 minutes. Let me finish it up.
Okay.
Go to the next one after that. Next one. So if someone doesn't believe it, here is the wildlife. 12 turkeys enjoying the grassy side. Next one. So I basically, when we talk about 25 feet, 25 feet is practically a little bit more than a length of a Home Depot truck that you can basically rent. So I went there to my property, and near the residential unit, I put this little rag, yellow rag here. That's 25 feet. I went to there are a lot of for sale for these units inside of their park, by the way, and took some of these pictures, put it here. So this is how it's going to look like. And these are going to be the driveways. So somebody comes in at 2 a.m., 1 a.m., the lights of the truck shines right through the windows of the residential unit. And so kind of like I'm going to lose my tenants. This is going to create a lot of issues for me. Next one. So what I'm suggesting here is that I'm asking for because I have a residential unit like everyone else, right? So this house was built in 1800s, late 1800s. It's very old, but it's in a great shape. So what I'm asking for is, why don't you give me the same setback? Give me this 100 feet, separate us, let me just breathe a little bit, let me keep my tenants, let me keep my business going, and doesn't create hardship for me. And then also I'm suggesting that we add like some sort of a privacy fence. I mean, why not? Add a privacy fence, some shrubbery, don't chop things, let the animals roam, enjoy their life. I'm happy. They make a little bit less money maybe, but everyone in the neighborhood is happy. Next one, Brian. So here I just put some examples. The vinyl fencing nicely melts with the environment. These are the type of trees. Everyone is using them here. I took a close-up of this. And this is again the view of my property from where my wife's clients or the other doctor's clients are coming into the building. rather than seeing mobile homes and kind of like we disturb each other, everyone is happy. And I'm begging you to give me that relief and let my business run, let me be there.
Okay.
And I thank you.
Very good, thank you. Attorney McCann, you care to respond?
So 168 Center Street is a mixed-use commercial property. We've got an office building, and then there is a single-family home. That single-family home is in fact sitting back 100 feet from the property line. So there already is that distance. But that single-family home is located in the highway corridor zone. It, too, is a non-conforming use.
Understood. What about the thought of a fence or arborvitae's or something?
Well, you know, we'll get in, as I said before, landscaping and things are something that the planning board will get into. Snow storage, runoff, all of that will be dealt with at the planning board.
What are the thoughts around that? I mean, is that something that sounds like it could be on the table?
You know, that would be something that we'd put on a landscaping plan. We'd talk to Mr. Tedesco. He'd have to make that decision as to whether that's something that he wants to do. I think something that's being lost here is that the mobile homes are a residential use. This is a residential use. This is where people are going to be living. So it is not incompatible with other residential types of uses. What might be less compatible are other type of highway corridor zone uses that could go on 7 acres of land. This is a residential use that we are proposing. And what we just heard about was a mixed use, which is a busy commercial office use, and the residential house. And the residential house is at least 125 feet from the closest home on the mobile home park. And the gate is proposed. I don't know, that seemed to be lost in what was being said. The gate is proposed.
That'll be ferreted out with the planning board,
What's that?
the gate.
We are showing the gate on the plan, and we will work
It's a no
through.
access gate.
That is exactly correct. And we'll work with the fire department as to the type of gate that they want, but it would be no access for coming into or out of.
The neighbor indicated about, kind of looks like maybe a tight turn to exit.
It's a 90-degree turn, as you would at any, intersections are supposed to
What are
be
the width
90
of these
degrees.
roads?
I'm a little
They're not
confused by that
standard.
comment.
They're not standard width roads though, right? They're a little more narrow, correct?
Right, they're not roads.
Yeah.
They're driveways.
They're driveways, okay.
Yes.
What's the average width of, I guess?
What
a
are those? Are
driveway
they
road?
18? We're proposing 20.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'm going to go back out to the public.
Just, sorry to interrupt. So we had 3 people beforehand. They're in your board packets. So there are 3 people. Cameron was already one of them. There's 2 others, Jane Thornell and Melissa Miller, who have already prepared something to speak. And there's also somebody online who put their hand up a long time ago. So I'll let you decide. But again, there's already 2 people that have said they plan to talk and they've sent material. And there's another one online.
Two that are present and one that's
Jane
online.
Thornell, Melissa Miller,
Yeah.
thank you. And then another online.
Why don't we take the one online right now?
Okay, hold on just a sec.
Yeah, no, just whoever is online, if I'll just reiterate, please, questions through the chair about the project, and not things that are not before the zoning board, which are planning board items such as landscaping details, gates, etc.
So Joanne Wheelock, if you wanted to go right ahead, you can unmute. You should be able to unmute yourself and go right ahead.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Could you just,
I
can you
listened
identify yourself,
to-
please?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you identify yourself?
Joanne Wheelock Ragucci, town meeting member, Precinct 2. I was at the last meeting regarding 98 Newbury Street and listened to all the plans and listening to it tonight. And I believe this expansion would have a significant negative impact on the abutting homes. I think from what the neighbors have spoken and offered are being very generous to the mobile park. I'm not going to be as generous. I think these abutters are entitled to peace and comfort in their homes. And from other disturbances, from the information I've gathered, is that this particular park has a lot of issues with police response, a lot of disturbances. I don't see how that's going to improve if you expand a park. I don't think it's proven to be good neighbors now. And these abutters hear the noise now, so that noise is going to be made significantly greater. First responders have trouble even maneuvering the park now as it is. So I don't even understand how construction vehicles are going to be able to maneuver if our first responders, police, ambulance, or fire department have trouble getting in there. The one question that I do have is, I know in the last meeting, I thought, is the snow storage? I know that was brought up by the owner of 168 Center Street. I have the same concerns about that. I know it's for the planning board, but, I say let's nip it in the bud here, because once you kick that can down the road.
Excuse me, this isn't a board that addresses that. This board does not address that.
Understood.
So
I
nipping
acknowledge
it in the
that.
bud's not
Thank
an
you.
option for the zoning board?
Pardon?
Nipping it in the bud is not an option for the zoning board.
Right, I acknowledge that.
And I would back up just around first responders.
I am.
Can you cite anything specific besides just a generalization?
I can't hear.
Hold on, there's someone speaking.
Can't.
Go ahead.
I can't hear you. I can't understand what you're saying. I'm sorry.
You mentioned first responders having trouble getting into the site. Can you give any specifics?
No, these were just private conversations that I had with some first responders, and that's how I'm going to leave it. Okay?
Yeah.
So just to wrap it up, I don't think these abutters should be subject to having their property values devalued by this expansion. I just don't think it is something that this area needs or can handle, and it just won't work. And I know the attorney who is representing the property owner, mentioned, well, this is better than something else going there. I don't want to see anything else go there either. I want to see the open land as it is now. So I'm a huge no.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, right there in the red. So Brian, no one else online? No one else online?
Good evening. Sandy Kesting, 188 Center Street.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening to my neighbors as well. Could we see the plan put back up? Thank you. Just a couple areas that I would like to talk about. One being this grouping right here, and the other being this grouping right here. But in general, I wanted a question for the board that I have. In looking back on this property, this upper section here, in fact, a good portion, this is my property over here, and a good portion of this and some of this was deeded to the previous owners, which was the Danvers Trailer Park, by Thomas Blackburn and his wife deeded this property in 1990, the end of 1990, and then it was filed with the Registry of Deeds in January 1991, a good 10 years after Danvers decided no more permits for mobile home parks. So I guess my question to the board is, where do we draw the line as to what's grandfathered in? That area of land over here that we're discussing was a separate quitclaim deed. It is not part of the entire property here.
Well, they're not here requesting any grandfathered status. They're here, they have filed for, I believe, a variance and a finding. or-
Just a finding.
Just a finding.
I understand,
So
but
there's no grandfathered, they're here as any applicant would be here in town with any land seeking relief from our bylaw. So
okay,
it's not a grandfathered function. The attorney pointed out, this is in the highway corridor, so the highway corridor has specific language as what's allowed by right. And
Okay.
that means when something's allowed by right, it would not come before this board. They would simply just work with the planning department and file something that's allowed by right in the highway corridor. In this case, they're looking for residential use that is not allowed by right in the highway corridor, if that makes sense. So
It does.
that's what driving them to come to this board to seek a finding.
okay.
that
Use,
make
a
sense?
use finding.
It does and it doesn't. It's
Okay.
it's really
Oh,
two
well,
part.
I
It's
can try and clear
well,
it
there's-
up. I
well,
want it
there's-
to make sense, because I think the more it makes sense to all the abutters, I think you can kind of see it as we're seeing it, which is, what they're asking for here, they own the land, and they're asking to put a residential use in it. We've had several cases come up over the years where the highway corridor properties or parcels from the highway corridor would come up with various requests. Some this board has found are not detrimental, and we've granted relief. Some we have, and we haven't granted relief. So we look at every case individually,
okay,
and that's where this one's at.
okay. I do have a couple other points that I'd
Sure.
like to.
Go right ahead.
So these three over here, I know there was six
I
facing.
think there was 5.
Was it
They
5?
reduced it to 3.
Okay.
You could be right.
I'm just
Sorry, you
wondering.
are right, yeah, there was
There was
6, and
6.
now they're down to 3.
So where is the parking for these units? There is no parking showing for those 3 units. And,
We'll let the applicant answer that.
okay, and additionally, when we build anywhere, whether you're R1, R2, R3, you have your space allotment. These look like they're just about touching here. They are so jammed in. What if the person in the middle here wants to leave? How the heck do you get it out of there?
I'll let the applicant.
You know what I
respond.
mean?
Yeah.
But I also want to
So
know
I
where
think
the...
you're asking about side setbacks between the trailers.
Exactly.
Okay.
And what's...
And
what-
parking.
And parking, and what's fire safety. Now, I am going to fight this in conservation, because the resident at 168 is true. There's a huge area here of wildlife.
Yeah, I think we're getting that picture.
Yep, so, so I guess I wanted to discuss that real quick, and then I wanted to mention, I guess the other question I wanted to ask was the percentage of ownership versus renters.
I think they've already clarified, but I'll let them reiterate.
I think they
believe
said it's
all
100%
persons are owners.
occupied,
Yes.
but
all
they didn't
owners.
specify.
Yep.
And I think it's a little premature to mention on the gate, because that has to go through planning. They may not allow that,
Correct. The planning,
which is an issue.
which would be another meeting regarding this.
Okay. So I guess I wanted to,
There's no gate currently, correct?
no, there's just a couple of burn barrels, 50-gallon drums,
Okay.
which you can get through,
Sure.
So I guess I wanted to leave the board with this. We're in an R3. The neighbors here that are here tonight, we live in the section of R3, which is the most rural part of town.
Sure.
We have the most space around us. We have purchased our homes and are raising our families there for a reason. And I want to make sure the board, considers the fact that their decision here, with the number of units squished in with the amount of noise, the current status of the noise that's there now, the unruliness that goes on now. Now you're going to add 31 more families that are even tightly tucked in to what the ones are now. We should not have to suffer for those decisions in our neighborhood. We have a responsibility, myself, my neighbors, to continue to keep our neighborhood as an R3. My property's quite large. I have a lot of trees surrounding my property. I've lost a lot in the last 13 years that I've been there. There's been electrical strikes, there's been diseases, what have you. When one comes down, I replace it with two, because I want to make sure that the property in the area stays an R3 atmosphere, which is natural borders, natural greenery, the wildlife, and the space and the quiet enjoyment and the serene surroundings that we've all come to love in that neighborhood. This is not it, and this is not going to add anything. There's no benefit to the surrounding neighbors. It's just too large of an expansion. And that's what I wanted to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
tonight.
Attorney McCann, you want to respond to those questions, please? I think it was around parking for those 3 units and setbacks, and I guess that is kind of maybe a good thing to touch upon. So
Yeah.
I know when there's regular houses in R1, R2, R3, we have side setbacks, front setbacks. Does that not really apply with trailers?
That does not apply to trailers. It's
And why is that?
Because there aren't setback requirements in between the trailers. There isn't under the bylaw, there isn't under the regulations that would apply here. So we don't have that. It's not unlike a duplex or a triplex that are connected. These are not connected, but they're close together. No question about that. The question was, what was the ownership? I don't know.
It was
why
ownership
that's
versus
relevant,
rental. I think it's
to the board, but to the extent that you're interested in that, there's over 90% are owned.
So some units
by the
are
occupants.
rented?
There, yes,
Okay,
but over 90% are
owner occupied.
Owner occupied.
okay.
Let's see, was there anything else here that needed to be responded to? Yeah. I'll ask Will to respond to the parking. And while he's coming up here, again, I'll say it again, this is a residential use. It is in the highway corridor zone. So the R3 uses is not being proposed in the R3 zone. This is being proposed in the highway corridor zone. It is, however, compatible, given that it is also a residential use. It's been here since the 1940s and well known. It's a 7-acre site that's been a mobile home park. So, Will, parking.
Yeah, so the parking, if you look, there are excess spots on the far right side of the plan. So those are actually, the guest parking's kind of mixed in there. It's not all just in those straight two, I guess, larger parking areas. So that would be adequate for the parking for those units as well.
So please don't ask directly, ask through the chair. So those 3 units shown to the north, there's not a parking pad or spot next to the units themselves. They would park elsewhere?
Correct, yep.
Okay.
Up in the right side where the larger
Where your
parking spots.
guest spots are, though?
Well, there's guest spots there that are kind of mixed in. The parking counts work for the number of units. So the overall number of units, there's adequate parking.
And how many, so is it, it's 31 units you're proposing, so there's 31 parking spots, or the units get more than one spot?
So it will really depend. We're showing what complies. Right now, that most of these units, you see the 36 feet, which complies to a typical 2-stall parking spot.
Okay. And then there's 10 guest spots?
Correct.
Very good. Thank you.
I have
Yeah,
one-
go ahead, Karine.
I have one question before you leave. So you're saying that those 3 units that are up on top, there's no parking for them up there?
So there's 12 parking spots up in those two larger parking areas on the
Okay.
top right plan, right?
All right, show me where it is. Okay.
And then if you look on the right side, you'll see that there's excess spots, so 4 excess spaces for the units on that right road side.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out for those units, like if they didn't have a space right near their unit, how far they would have to walk to get to and from their vehicle.
It's about like 70 feet for the max. It depends on the door locations of the units as well.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, go ahead.
So-
For this person? Yeah.
What is the spacing between those three up north, the three up?
It's about 3 feet between all the units. It's kind of the minimum spacing, roughly.
Okay. So do you have, they have propane tanks?
I am not sure. I know that they'll be compliant to all building code.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Attorney McCann, if you could, because Ken brings up a good point. So right now, the existing 72 units, are they, is it natural gas up there, or what, is there gas lines on that site?
Propane
It's all propane currently. And is that?
and oil.
And oil, and is that the expectation with the new part as well?
All propane,
All propane, very good.
which is typical on mobile home.
Okay, yep, thank you. Public comment, yeah, right there. Yeah,
Go.
that's what I'm asking for. Yeah, come on up.
Yep.
And questions, please.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh, this is high tech. Alrighty. Well, hello.
Good evening, and just for the record, you are?
I am Jane Thornell, and I am the homeowner at 182 Center Street. I've been there for 23 years, and I was over on Locust Street for an additional 23 years. Next, please. So we learned a lot from the last meeting, that all of this proposal was brought to bear. I learned that this has been in the works for 2 years, 730 days, not one of which was spent coming into our neighborhood to ask us about, show us the plans, ask us how we felt, talk about mitigation to our concerns, not a minute. And now everybody makes mistakes. Maybe, they didn't realize how interested we would be in this project. So 2 months ago, I'm sure that reading the room, you would know how interested the neighborhood is in this.
I could
And-
just ask to direct toward the board, to the chair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go. How interested we are in this. So we had another 2 months that somebody could have reached out for us, brought the new plans, talked to us, talked about our concerns and mitigation for this. But again, nobody darkened our door. The interesting thing is at the last meeting, we were talking about, at great extent, talking about a swimming pool and 2 feet here and 1.5 feet here. Now this, and they made a point of talking about going to the neighbors. They had canvassed the entire neighborhood. No sight lines were going to change there. You were talking about absolutely no impact on that neighborhood. Now, again, tonight, what was just presented, we went down and talked about all of the different homes that were queried about this new project going into Tibbetts Street. This is a watershed event for our neighborhood, and yet nobody has reached out for us. So I think then and there, it just speaks volumes about how people feel about the neighbors. We are the neighbors. Next, please. Thank you, Brian. So last time we were here, I didn't hear Mr. Trask say it, but Attorney McCann said that she and Mr. Trask both said that a trailer park would have no ill effect on the values of the neighborhood. I can tell you I have searched high and dry looking for a single syllable to support that statement. And these are trailers, they're not manufactured homes. No effect on a neighborhood whatsoever. However, go right ahead. But this is a gentleman who has spent his life, and here is his paper. It was presented in, as you can read, at a Real Estate Society annual meeting. This is an excerpt. The presence of mobile home communities significantly decreased the value of properties in adjacent neighborhoods. But don't take my word for it. Next, Brian. Thank you. Oh, did we miss one? Oh, no, I'm sorry. You're right. It's the next one. Alrighty, so this came from a blog. 108 people responded to this. A woman had found the home of her dreams. However, it abutted a trailer park. And there was one, not unnegative, put up a fence, buy the house, put up the fence. Other than that, people would no, never, find another house, listen to your realtor, all in opposition to this woman who was asking, should I buy it or should I not? Then they gave advice to visit the mobile home, of course, to get a sense of the condition and how well it's run. But knowing that a mobile a mobile trailer park can turn over at any time, and then you would have very different neighbors. The third one is just horrifying to anybody who's a homeowner.
Okay, I think we're getting the gist of it, though. You're saying that you feel, expanding the park will be very
This is
detrimental.
108 people who have no skin in this game,
Yep.
and the other was a PhD in housing.
Okay.
All right, next, on to the visit to the mobile home. I did visit. I told you last time, I visited not once, not twice, but 3 times. Okay, however, I later learned that this is a private property. Thank you for telling me, Brian, that I could not just access it. Next slide. So I reached out, and this is a note to Attorney McCann. Thank you very much. She answered it in a very, very timely way. However, as you can see, my access to the property was denied. I was liability, other reasons, and I will say I don't blame Attorney McCann. I have been there. I have seen the conditions. Now I'm hearing they've improved, but you can't prove it by me because it's private property and I've been uninvited. So the point being that, I don't know what's happened here since I was last in, but last in, it was very substandard. I visited every mobile home park north and south of Route 1. I practically had to get a compass to find the one on North Street. It's so well hidden. And all of those, except for the one across the street, were well above the standard that I was seeing at this proposal. Next slide, please. Here's the front, and this was done recently. There's no sign to indicate it's private property. There's no sign to indicate how you can go ahead and access this property and that you need permission. So again, that's unpleasant. So let's go to the next slide. All of the things that you see here are from the 98. These come from Realtor pictures. These are all available to the public. This tells about 3% of the story of this proposal. Again, these are the realty pictures. Now, anybody who's ever sold or bought a property knows when you go to sell your property, it's in its Sunday best. So these are all have been readied for sale. Next, please. Again, here we are. Look at this. I'm there. Look at this.
Is that a boat?
Chairman, when were these taken? These were taken.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to stop you at this point and I think we're getting the gist. You're not happy with the state of the park.
Honestly,
Yep.
these are the tip of the iceberg to what I saw. And if I had been allowed to go in, you would be seeing ones that were taken within the last few weeks. Next. In every one of these, you're going to see a car parked in the street, which is the size of a one-car driveway. And again, keep going. And again, this comes from...
Yeah, I think this board's pretty aware of the state of the
Well,
park.
I just want to be sure that this comes from a Realtor that says your house might be perfect, but one glance at neighboring properties that aren't can be very problematic. Next. We touched on this. Somebody went ahead and this is all online. You can go ahead and see where sex offenders are in Danvers. Yes, there's one in the trailer park. I mean, people have to live somewhere. But again, that we have two. We have one in the trailer park and one across the street of Route 1. So that is, again, another detriment to our property values. Next. And these are level 2 sex offenders. These, unfortunately, have had problems with children. Next. Next. Up.
This is the next one.
This next after this one?
Okay.
Thank you. And again, having been there, granted I was trespassing, but I didn't know at the time, there is no way
Okay,
that
yeah,
you can
that's been
get
brought
through.
up. We
Okay.
got it.
Well, there it is. It's brought up again. Next.
I guess I would just ask you if you could summarize any new
I
points you'd
do
like to
need-
make.
Yes, some new, we talked a lot last time about affordable housing. Affordable, talking about 2,000 a unit, 425, the opportunity, it all sounds very good. However, even and especially these are even squished closer together, there is very little to mitigate parking. There's going to be 100 units and there's going to be 10 visitor park. So 1 in every 10 units can have a visitor at any one time. And here, as you can see, this has children. So half of this is for the children to play outside, leaving only one place for a car. And there's no assurance that you won't see piles of debris. Again, I've seen it myself. I don't have the recent pictures because of that problem. But people are just piling debris in between their units. Next. And honestly, I don't know why. I don't know if they don't have the same regulations that the other parks have, whether they're not enforced the same way the other parks have, but I saw maybe 1 or 2 in all of the other units that I visited. So I'm not sure what's a problem. But I have to ask myself, why now? Why are we here now? This land has been fallow for generations. Again, right now the real estate market is absolutely frozen. Interest rates are at their highest. Mortgage is tight as any. And again, this is being Christian. The honey-do list in this park is far from completed in the original section. Right now, there are 2 units for sale. One needs a lot of love. It's been up for over 90 days, and it has had 1 price reduction. It's up for under $110,000. The other one, quite frankly, is very nicely, and it listed all of the renovations that have been done. The pictures were lovely. That has been up for 70 days for a price of $119,000. So again, and honestly, if this was on an island in Danvers Reservoir, I would be opposing that. Yes, it's a residential proposition, but do we have to have so many residents in this? They're just squished upon each other. Keep going, Brian. Thank you. But will it remain affordable housing? And this is a very important, I know I sent this all out to the board because I really wanted to be sure everybody is aware of a predatory trend in the trailer park industry. Absolutely rampant all over Florida, but it's here as a matter of fact, in Revere, they have the exact same thing happening. If you're a trailer park owner and you want to raise the rent, you have to give only a certain percentage it can raise, and you've got to give people a large amount of time to know it, because if they want to move, they can pick up and move their unit.
I'm going to interrupt you because we're kind of veering off course here a little
Okay.
bit.
Well, all I'm
Just
saying is...
what we're here to debate, as you well know, is whether we're going to allow an expansion here.
Exactly.
So I would just want
Exactly. Let
questions
me-
around that
and
expansion.
That's exactly where I'm leading.
Okay.
So this 72 units today would be worth a tremendous amount of money. Add another 30 spots to that, and you can go ahead and move that. and move it again. This is all, if you you can go into Google and Google it. This is just everywhere. Again, Brian, thank you. And again, there's no assurance that this trend of corporate greed, that you can give them another 30 houses, and what happens? Go right ahead, Brian. Fast forward. First of all, it's not big on trees, bushes, or grass. The only trees are around the periphery. There's an occasional bush. And if you allow this, the neighborhood will be irreparably harmed. Again, we've talked about the wildlife. They're going to be on the median strip on Route 1, and what was billed as affordable housing is anything but. People are coming in, they're doubling and tripling the lot rents. People can't move. They absolutely are losing their homes. They're homeless, and that's what I want to be sure that people, now that I'm done whining, one last one. Okay, what am I looking for? I'm looking for you to support our neighborhood. We want to be treated like every other neighborhood. No other neighborhood goes ahead and is in view of a trailer or a trailer park. Our neighborhood, we have people who took a vacant lot, built a beautiful home. Another Victorian was restored beyond belief. And again, a very tired, very in ill repair professional building and residence has been beautifully done. And it didn't take 13 years for people to do this. So again, I'm looking for the support of the board. Must we give 30 at one time? Can we give 5? And then see if conditions in that park improve, not only for the neighbors, but for the people who are in that park. It is substandard, and we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, new comments only, please. Go ahead, right there. Yep. Yep.
My name is Susan Berry. I live at 189 Center Street, also
Hi, good
a
evening.
neighbor. I spoke last time. I won't repeat.
Thank you.
I will also be brief.
Yes.
Many things that Jane said, I was going to touch on briefly. I will reiterate that I was in the park most recently this past Saturday. We were in a small compact car, and my ex-husband drove me around the park. He could barely get around the park in a small car. So I agree with the position of construction before it even came up. I question how a construction truck going out to do the work could possibly get in. Therefore, it brings them up my concern about the access on Center Street. Will that suddenly be opened up for construction
Well,
trucks?
they already stated it wouldn't be.
Okay, I'm just saying, it
Yep.
brings up a concern.
Yep.
And the second thing is, speaking as a compassionate person and all for affordable housing and for those that need it and qualify, I am appalled to be a citizen of Danvers to think that the conditions of the existing trailer park are what we call affordable housing for our Danvers residents to live in. And I would like to see, I'm not necessarily saying don't approve the new stuff, but what I'm saying is before you put in more, please correct what's already there. That's all I'm asking. Thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, Mr. Bradstreet.
Bill Bradstreet, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1. If you would, sir, would you ask the people when they point to use this? So
Sure.
I'm in the back because that's where I belong, but I want to be able to see what they're pointing to.
We can do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My first comment is it's too dense. One of the questions that, or answers that came up was the services would go underground. Are there going to be telephone poles, or will the telephone service also be underground in this park?
We'll have the applicant answer that.
I believe there was a lot of effort putting into the design, and I understand it was it would be the owner's efforts to increase his investment, but the state still doesn't recognize these units as
Correct.
affordable housing?
They do not, that's correct.
Do we know why?
It's a very long answer that I don't think this board can answer, and nor can our planning director in a timely manner.
It's been about 15, 20 years at the state level. It's been a long haul.
Well, the state works very slowly, unless it's something of their own interest.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
my comment, first one does, it's true dense.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Commonwealth.
So, yeah, there is still one more presentation, Melissa. Right, yeah. Yeah, so, Chair, there is still one more presentation that we haven't gotten to that,
All right, as long as it's touching on new info.
I'll be quick.
Your
I'm
name,
Melissa Miller. I live at 184 Center Street.
Yeah, just one more time, your name for us?
Melissa Miller.
Thank you, Melissa.
I talk fast sometimes. I had a thing up. Anyways, I have, oh, here it is. You can go to the next one. No, next one.
I think we got that point.
So anyways, this is the back of my yard. There's the rock wall that goes all the way across mine and my neighbor Jane's. And on the other side is where the trailer park wants to go. My concern is, well, I know they're going back or now or hoping to go back or now. If it happens, hopefully it doesn't, or if they can just downgrade a little more, a privacy wall would be nice, something like, because I don't want to see lights in trailer parks.
Yep, that was brought up.
Okay,
Yep.
next point. You could go to the next picture. That's just more the wall, and then here's.
Can you use that pointer as Mr.
here it
Bradstreet
is.
pointed out? Yeah.
So this is basically the back of my yard, and that's the dirt road next to it. You can go to the next picture.
That's the road there.
So here's the
Yeah.
road. My house is over here. That's the trailer park, and there's a truck right there. I don't know where that truck's going, if it even runs, but my father, he's an 87-year-old man, he can't speak up right now, but those...
Why he's got you.
Yep.
Right.
Those barrels have only been there, he brought it up, and he's right, a few years, because they were using this as an access road. And I would hear cars, but I couldn't see them, but I just would ignore it. But anyways, that's the point to that. So that's the end of the trailer park, and this is Center Street. Now, I know it can't be accessed as an emergency vehicle road now. They say they can't go down dirt roads. It's never happened yet. So I don't know if it is going to end up being an emergency access road for...
Well, I think that's what the
fire-
applicant detailed, but they would
Also-
sort that out at the planning board.
So that gate would have to be approved, but also would this end up being paved? It would have to be a paved road?
Again, that's a planning board
Okay,
issue.
so those are my concerns, and just in the future that if this does happen, there needs to be a guarantee that they're not using this road as a access. Center Street is already the back roads of 114 and Route 1. It's another highway.
Yep.
And you know the neighborhood, it's a beautiful neighborhood. The houses aren't on top of each other like many neighborhoods in Danvers. Danvers is beautiful. I feel it's getting overcrowded. There's a lot of safety concerns with this whole park on top of these trailers being on top of each other. This is the first time I've seen the new plan, and this is directly affecting me, and I'm just finding out about this today. You can go next. I don't know what else is it. Okay, so there you go. And then that's it basically for my presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Against it, my dad's against it. We've lived here for 46 years, and it's just too beautiful of a area to add that into our backyards.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay.
There was that lady in the corner.
Yeah, go ahead.
Been waiting.
I'm gonna, oh, wait, Dad's gonna say something. Come on up. Just if you could identify yourself, maybe you can help.
All I want to
Make sure the mic-
This is Paul Miller.
Paul Miller, hey, Paul.
I'm Paul Miller. I lived there about 60 years. And before I put the barrels up, it was like a 114. They all started cutting through Joe's yard, the neighbor. So he put barrels down by the trailer park, so you couldn't use the road. That's all I gotta say.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, I'll have you, yep.
Hi, my name is Lisa. I live at this mobile home park.
Lisa, your last name, please?
Crevero.
Okay.
All right, I live at this mobile home park, and I live where they're thinking
Right into the microphone for me.
I live where they're thinking about putting more mobile homes in.
Uh-huh.
All right. I sit out on my porch and I watch 7 or 8 a deer running around in my backyard playing. The turkeys running out there. They're going to be taking that away from them. Another issue I have, they're going to be putting the gate so that, to block off the exit and entrance to Center Street. There's 72 mobile homes there now. Think about it, 2 cars per unit, 144 cars. That park, those roads can't handle what we got. And then they want to add 30, 35 more. Double that with 72 cars. Now, you might as well just take that park and put it in the middle of Route 1. I mean, and then he claims that that they hot-topped the roads and hot-topped everybody's driveways. No, they didn't. And then when there was a fire up at the beginning of the park, up front, and I emailed the park manager the next day asking him to have people clean up their yards because the fire department, I believe, had a hard time getting to that fire, even though it was right out front, because the cars are parked in the middle of the road.
Yep. So you're not in favor of
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay.
The rules, and I say this to the park manager constantly. Why waste the paper you're writing these rules on if you're not going to enforce anything?
Sure. Okay.
I abide by all the rules. I keep my property clean, my yard clean, my house clean. I get permission to do anything.
Sure.
I abide by what I signed.
Yep.
But there was just so many people. And then the last meeting, one woman said that there was a sex offender in the park. There's a gymnastics place with little kids right in the back of the yard.
Well, we're not here to enforce that. That's
No, but
on the
I'm
town.
just making a point.
Yeah.
If that one got in, what makes you think the others aren't going to get in?
Yeah.
And there's children there in the gymnastics place.
Yeah.
And there's a junkyard. All right, I was considering selling my home a couple of months back. There's that truck in another car. That truck has been there about 3 years. All right, and now she added to the junkyard down back. All right, I lost a sale of my mobile home because I'm not going to lie to these people when they ask me when are these going to be moved. Well, that one's been there 3 years. This one's been here 6 months. It's a junkyard.
Do you have any
down there.
other questions you want to ask about the application?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you have any questions you'd like to ask about this application?
No, I just
And
don't believe
you're
it
not
should
in
be approved.
favor?
No,
Okay.
it would decrease the value of
I got
people's
it.
property.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, right here in the front.
Oh, excuse me, can I say one more thing? When they mentioned
Up on the mic, please.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry. When they mention the sign to the park, I've complained numerous times about that too. The sign is not facing when you're coming to traffic.
Okay, that's something they brought up though, and they're trying to address. So
But
they
it's
have. We
taken-
can only
it's
take
taken to get
them.
approved. It's taken to get approved, to get an approval, to finally, I've lived there 7 years, and everything I've said to this park manager has fallen on deaf ears.
Well, I think this has been highlighted through this process.
They got the sign after you go by the park.
Okay.
And it's not facing this way, it's that way. And I've had to go out front and clean because it's not maintained.
Yep. Okay.
No?
Thank you for your points. Yeah, go ahead. That's all right. No, we're here to learn. Hi.
Laura Cheevers, 168R Center Street. So I am in opposition, but I don't have a lot new to add. I just want to, first of all, thank this lady. It's nice to get an actual honest opinion or view of the trailer park as opposed to listening to lawyers, builders, and engineers on, how great it is. I just want to reiterate when the owner of 168 shows the property and shows my house, and it's pointed out as, oh, it's part of residential or it's on this highway belt. We're people that live in this house. I pay more than my mortgage was in Linfield to live in this house. It's not just some house that's thrown next to a commercial building because this man is trying, he needs to make money off of his property. And with, the view he's showing, I'm in, she can talk about setbacks. I'm in my yard. I'm in there with my dog. I have 2 children. We're out there all the time. We have trees. Like she said, I have 10 turkeys in my yard, 5 deer, you name it. And then all of a sudden there's just going to be, I don't care if they're trailer parks. I don't care if they're McMansions. They're in the back where it's all, if you saw it, it's just trees. It's all brush. It's trees. My next door neighbors to me, we're all quiet. I can be out there at night. I can hear cars coming in and out. I can hear people screaming. It's just obnoxious. I mean, we're such a quiet neighborhood, and then I can hear that through all those trees, so I can't even imagine you remove all that, besides just killing the wildlife, what it is like really for all the residents on that street. So I just wanted to say, obviously, I am in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to take last one down there. Yep, thank you.
My name is Michael Pelagi. I live at 187 Center Street, across from Jane. I'm very concerned by what I see here tonight. If I understand the property line that's being drawn there around the 168 and 168R, these buildings come up, it looks like, within about 15 feet of that property line. And there's a sight line from Center Street right back through 168 that gets you'll be seeing that from our residential neighborhood. No less than the noise, just the visual sight line. So that is certainly one concern. The other concern is with 3 feet between buildings. I lived in a condo before I came to 168 Center Street. And yes, condos are abutting each other, but there's a double firewall between each condo.
Yeah, I don't think we're here really to debate those setbacks.
This 3 feet between trailers.
If that's the standard, that's the standard. We don't set it.
But it's a tremendous fire hazard.
I don't think the applicant's proposing something that's not what is standard.
Well, if I were the fire department, I would be objecting, but okay.
And we're not the fire department
I am concerned
either.
about the visual aspects, of particularly when there's such a small space between the mobile homes and the property line of 168R, with the clear sight across 168 from Center Street.
Understood. Thank you. Okay, at this point, I'm going to close. I'm sorry? Yeah, I'm just shutting off public comment for now. So, yeah, Attorney McCann, if you could wrap it up, and we'll try to move along here.
I love the public hearing process. I've been doing it for a long time, and it gives people the opportunity to come out and speak, and they've certainly done that tonight. The board members, however, know what's relevant to your scope of review and what you need to look at. This mobile home park has been here for 83 years. It has been a mobile home park on 7 acres. It's been there for 83 years. We've heard tonight a couple of comments. One, they don't want to see any expansion within the site of homes. That's really impactful on other property owners. When you have someone who owns a piece of property in a highway corridor zone, it is not reasonable to say that the development of that property should be invisible or not visible at all to other homes or other properties. That's not a right under the zoning bylaw. That's not something that is typically, if ever, a requirement of an applicant. We don't want to see anything else there. We've got, again, 7 acres of land in the highway corridor zone that has been open space, and people get used to that, and I appreciate that. But the applicant owns this property and has certain rights too. And to say that they don't want anything to happen there is not respectful of the applicant's property rights. It's too beautiful an area to use. It is a beautiful area. This is a residential use that's being proposed. And it will provide very nice housing for people who can't otherwise afford to purchase a home in Danvers or even to rent a home in Danvers. Why are we here? That was one question. Why now? Because there's a significant need for housing. You've certainly heard that from Danvers planning staff. You've heard it on the news. You know it if you have kids who are trying to start out and buy a home. It's not possible anymore for a market rate unit. This provides a home ownership opportunity. Predatory rents. The rents that can be charged are regulated by the state and by how much notice has to be given and how much rent can increase. So that's something, again, not within the purview of this board, but something that has been said, that there's going to be predatory rents that could impact these residents. Those are regulated. Let's see. Mr. Tedesco mentioned that these new units, these new pads, will be offered to the folks who are in the older section at a reduced rate so that they can move over into the newer section. And what's that going to do? That's going to allow him to continue the replacement of the older homes. Again, these have been around. This park has been around for 83 years. There are older homes there. He has been continuously upgrading when he can, but those homes are owned. So he has to wait till those folks are relocated, and he's going to offer them the opportunity, and that will give him the opportunity to upgrade the existing facility, straighten the pads out where he can, and make it look more uniform. The state doesn't regulate mobile home parks as affordable housing, but as the Affordable Housing Trust represented to you the last time, and as I represented to you the last time, while these are not considered, quote, affordable housing under the state regulations, they are actual affordable housing. And that's, there are folks who can afford these units who couldn't even afford the 80% AMI affordable housing, which is the standard housing under 40R or 40B. They can't even qualify for those, but they can qualify for this, and that this certainly meets a need. There was a comment that I'll just correct, that the driveway areas through the park have not been paved. They have been paved, and they were paved by the, excuse me.
Hold your comments, please.
Mr. Tedesco certainly has that information. I believe the last speaker said that the units were proposed to be 15 feet off the property line. That is not the case. All of them meet the setback requirements, whether it's 100 feet or whether it's 25 feet. That is met. So I think those are the corrections that I wanted to make and to bring out. This board is aware of your scope of review. This proposal to expand this mobile home park, which has been here for 83 years and which provides needed housing for those who cannot afford market rate housing, and to allow well-constructed area that's going to go through site plan review, that all of the more site-related issues that we heard about tonight will be addressed at that level, as well as access for emergency vehicles. That is looked at by the planning board under site plan review. And the gate will be installed. We would accept that as a condition, that that gate that's shown on the plan will be installed. This project will not be substantially more detrimental to this neighborhood. This neighborhood is the highway corridor zone. We certainly meet the setback requirements. This is a residential use, and it does, in fact, meet a need. We have the required parking. We have 2 parking spaces for every unit, and we also have visitor spaces. The zoning bylaw does not require visitor spaces be provided. We are providing 10 visitor spaces here. And we will continue to enforce the rules and regulations, go through the process that it takes to do that, and to run a nice mobile home park, and having it set out in an orderly fashion with, there was a question, will utilities be underground? All utilities are underground.
About poles.
Yep.
Yeah.
They will all be underground, then they come up to a little pedestal right by each of the pads. So, again, we've revised the plan in response to the comments that we've heard. We believe this proposal will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. I've given you the criteria for that in the application. And we would request approval, as this certainly does meet a need for the Danvers community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Attorney McCann. Before we deliberate, we'll see if the board has additional questions.
So this may have been answered before, but the density of the new area, is that more or less the same as the density as the current 72 trailers?
That's interesting. I don't know how quite I would calculate that. What I can tell you is, with the reduction in units over what was originally proposed, this application is about 14 units per acre, which is less than the existing mobile home park up on Newbury Street, a little further up on Newbury Street. The mobile home park on North Street that was mentioned is also 14 units per acre. So the density is compatible and in keeping with other mobile home parks. Is it more or less, or I guess we'd have to, divide the lot, and it's all one lot, so it's kind of hard to do that. But what I can tell you is the density of units per acre is in keeping with the other mobile home parks in the community. And as it's laid out, it will certainly be more organized than the older section of the park.
Okay, thanks.
I have one.
Additional board members, if you have a question. Jack Corrine, go ahead.
How many units are in the older part of the park?
72.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board members with questions before we deliberate? No. Okay. Corrine, I believe we started with you, and I'm going to ask for some deliberations.
Well, I thank you for the revised plan. I still think it's too dense and there are too many units. So especially those 3 up at the top, I would never vote for anything with the 3 up there. So the way it stands now, I still think there are too many. I think it's too dense. And I also think there are some real concerns about the original portion of the park. And I think some of those concerns need to be addressed before construction or anything else started, because I do think there could be huge issues. So the way the plan is now with the proposed 31, I think it's still too many units.
Thank you, Corrine. Ken?
There's a lot going on here, and I guess the totality of everything, with the rights of the owner to build, and I think it is, I mean, you have to expect to be able to, like, I can see my neighbors right across the street. I live in an R1, pretty condensed, and, the neighbor pulls into the driveway and lights may flash near my house. I mean, I understand. So I'm just saying that there is rights of the owner to build on that. Now, the question is what can you do to mitigate some of that? And a fence, I think, is very good. A high fence, what was it, a 10-foot fence or?
Oh, I wouldn't think so. A standard fence is 6.
6. But fencing and maybe some greenery would be good there. And then, yeah, but I'm tending to move to, I would vote for this, I believe, because I think the concessions that we talked about before have been made. So I think I'm leaning towards a yes. I feel bad about the wildlife, but they will have to probably push into the wetlands a little, and they'll probably hang out in the trailer park. I have no idea. But in any event, I am done. All right.
Thank you.
Yep.
So you are a yes?
Yes.
Very good. Okay, Ken Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the new plans. I'm torn on this. I do believe that the owner of these acreage, they have the right to do what they want. They have the right to try to develop it if they want. As far as traffic flow and all kinds of things like that, that's on them. That's their problem. Let them deal with that. You don't have to live there. People on Center Street, you don't have to live there. They have to live there. They're going to block off the access, which I like. So nobody's going to take that road to Center Street. And to be honest, these people, they can't afford a $600,000 to $800,000 home on Center Street. So
Hold up, please.
So this is their
Point
option.
of order. Hold on,
This is
hold on.
their
Stop,
option.
stop, Ken. I'm going to reiterate, we are in deliberations right now, and we are not to be interrupted. Thank you.
So like I said, these people can't afford a $600,000 to $800,000 home on Center Street. Great, they're beautiful homes, I get it. But he has the right to develop this land. That being said, with all that, I still think there's too many units. As the first speaker spoke, he mentioned getting rid of the 7 units on the right, and he'd be fine with it. I think that would be a reasonable option. So as is proposed right now, I'm a no.
Thank you, Ken. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I agree with Corinne. I don't like those 3 at the top. And although Attorney McCann states that it's, 14 units per acre, there's a large portion of this parcel that's not buildable, that's wetlands. And so they've crammed the 30 units together so tightly that I just think it's not livable. I'm definitely against this plan. I think there needs to be less units. I think they need to be spaced out more. And I think I'm a no on this one.
Thank you, Jeff. Attorney McCann, I think a lot of, I find these types of cases are good for all parties involved. As the board, we get to hear from the neighbors. We get to hear your presentation. There has been some concessions since your original presentation. I think some of the things the board has highlighted as far as the operation of the existing park, it sounds to me, although I think one of the persons who live there has discredited that, it sounds like things are going in the right direction as we would expect as you're here seeking something out. But I have to agree with my fellow board members. I think this is just too crammed. I don't like the 3 units up on the north side. I know there's a price point or a money point where these types of projects, you need to get a certain amount of units to make it work. However, I do think that the neighborhood has raised enough concerns where, and I'm sure, you know, in review at the planning board, you probably would do some type of landscaping or fencing to really limit the impact on the neighbors. However, I think the 31 units, to me, it's just too much. I agree with Jeff, it's just too dense, it's too packed. I think there's a real opportunity to maybe meet somewhere in the middle. I don't know what that number is, but I think at 31, it's too much for me. So right now, you do not have the votes for a finding. What would you like to do?
We've been at this a long time tonight.
Yes. Would you like a
What
continuance?
I would like to do, what I would actually prefer to do is to take a brief recess and give me the opportunity to meet with my client, because maybe we can address the concerns that that we've heard from the board members tonight.
Okay, we'll take a
and get
5-minute
this
recess.
resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. figure out what we want to do here.
All right. Spoken with the applicant and the engineer. And I'll get out my pointer and hopefully we can make some significant movement here and get this to a point that the board can support. We are proposing to eliminate
Yeah, you should be able to,
take it out of there.
First, we would eliminate 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
So those units would be gone. We will then be doing no work, no units within the buffer zone.
And so you would no longer be required to go before Conservation
Not unless
Commission?
We may have some work here for the driveway,
Okay,
but no units. 1, 2, 3 would be gone.
okay.
We would also remove in this row here, they're currently shown as 6 units. We would remove 4 of those. And we would take the 2 that remain and turn them so that they will go like this.
Okay.
What that allows us to do is it gives us more room here, so we are doubling the spacing between this row and this row. We had said that this was about 3 feet. We're doubling that to 6 feet.
Okay.
So we've reduced the number of units by 7,
Okay. So 31 down to
24.
24 units.
Remember, we started at 35, so that's a significant reduction. Then we would propose the installation of a 6-foot-high stockade fence along here.
Okay. And you take that as a condition?
Yes.
Okay.
And, of course, the gate.
And the gate is part of your plan now, and remind me, Attorney McCann, because I believe we've had some cases before where gates were asked for and requested. I want to say River Run over at Home Depot and the beer distribution place. I can remember these and
Yeah.
getting over to the planning board and the fire department, and then they didn't want the gates. So if am I remembering that correctly?
Specifically, I remember the beer distribution place that you're talking about. That was a gate that was going to provide access to the beer distribution.
Oh, okay. So that wasn't
And they wanted to-
emergency vehicles.
Correct.
Okay.
So emergency vehicle access gate is very common.
Okay, so you'll take the gate as a condition as well?
Yes.
Okay.
And that will be worked out with the fire department, whatever they used to have key access. I think they want something more high-tech now for
Sure,
access.
and
right?
obviously the planning board would still, where and how the gate looks and all this would be on the table for them as
Oh,
well?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, removing these 3, reducing 6 down to 2, turning them
Yep.
so that they're facing this way, in doubling the distance between those 2 rows, adding a 6-foot-high stockade fence, and there will also be landscaping. There will be a landscaping sheet that will be part of the site plan package that would go to the planning board. So we've reduced the number of units by 11. That's a really significant reduction over what was originally requested of this board, and we think that the changes that we're indicating to you now address the comments that we've heard both from the board as well as to the neighbors to the best that we can to in order to provide an expansion of this park to meet those housing needs. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna, Ken, because you were a yes already, I'm gonna consider you already a yes. Yes. So I will start down there with you, Corrine. And actually, I'm sorry, Corrine. because of this change, does this need to be reopened for public comment?
I think it's certainly up to the board in terms of have to. No, right now you're in deliberations. To go by the letter of the law, no, you don't have to, but of course you can.
Well, board, what do we think?
How about a 5-minute?
This is similar to Shady Oaks Mobile Home Park.
Yeah.
That we had a couple of months ago before this board, where we did exactly this. We gave you unit numbers, and I can give you the unit numbers that were reduced during your deliberation.
I think we have a clear picture of the neighbors and their concerns. I can't see anything new being raised that we don't already understand. You guys have a good feeling on the neighborhood, the public? Okay, so with that said, we will stay in deliberations, and I will just go to the board members that were voting no, and ask for new comments. Corrine?
With these proposed changes, I would vote yes, but I would want maybe a 6-month or a 9-month review for you just to come in so we can see what's going on with the project, and just to confirm that some of the conditions that we imposed are being complied with. But other than that, I think the changes certainly will improve the density issue, and also at least alleviate some of the concerns of the neighbors. So I would vote yes with all of those conditions.
We would agree to come back. We would agree to a 6-month review,
6 month, 9 month?
whichever.
Let's go with 9 months?
I think 9-month might be better, only because of the timing now.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. And Ken, Scholes.
Mr. Z, you okay with this? Yay or nay? That's all I want to hear. Yay or nay?
No, because I still, it's ambiguous to me where those.
All right, I don't want to,
That's it,
all
so
kinds
he's-
of I wanted yay or nay.
No. Those two should go.
Your thoughts, Ken?
You know what? They reduced it by that many just in a 5-minute period. I'm a yes.
Okay, thank you. And Jeff?
I'm still a no. I think it's too dense. I think the rows that are left side to side are just too dense. It's just too much in too little space. So I'm still a no.
All right, well, Attorney McCann, you do have the votes because it's a finding 3, but so my vote really is not significant to the outcome. However, I will comment that I do feel like, a lot has been conceded. I think I agree with, Ken's earlier statement. If we took the approach that property owners weren't allowed to develop their land, there wouldn't be any homes in Danvers, right? So zoning was not always in place. I think zoning acts came into play in the 1950s. It's an attempt for towns to try to, organize what people are trying to do. So to sit here and just say no, there would be no point to having this board, and nobody would be able to develop anything in town. So I don't think that is the intent of property owners. So with that said, I would vote favorably for it. I think it's 24 units, and the fact that you're going to fence one side. I encourage the neighbors, as you have passionately shown, to follow this through to the planning board. They're really going to be the spot or your stop where, you're able to shape this project even more and get perhaps landscaping and things that we don't have jurisdiction over. But I think to have the applicant reduce from 35 down to 24, take a condition of a gate, which I believe all of you brought up, not wanting people to access this lot from Center Street. That alleviates that. I think a 6-foot fence to the abutter at 168 does quite a bit to alleviate any concerns there. I think turning the trailers will also certainly shape what it is you see, if anything, with a fence, and a review period of 9 months. So with those things in place, I would vote yes. And if I could get a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to issue a finding under Section 3.10.b to allow the expansion of an existing mobile home park to provide 24
Yes.
new mobile homes on site where 72 currently exist. The extension or enlargement is appropriate in scale and mass for the neighborhood, with the conditions of the gate being enforced,
Yeah,
fencing along
a
the...
6-foot fence.
I guess that's the
Would
east.
be the southerly, northerly side, correct? Attorney McCann?
Along,
east side.
you might want to say along the 168 Center Street.
Butter.
Along 168 of Butter. And a 6-month,
9 months.
9 months.
9 months, sorry, review of this site before us.
You got more?
That's it.
That's it. I've got a motion for a finding. Can I get a second?
Second.
Trevino. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
The motion passes.
Thank you very
and
much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, we have more business to do. Bring it up to the, you're gonna have to just follow it along to the next board. You'll have to follow it to the next board. Keep bringing your
Have a good
concerns
one.
up.
Good
night. Thank you very much. Good luck. Well, you'll get notified. Yeah, they'll go to the planning board next, and it'll
Yeah.
get advertised, just like this board.
The planning
Be
board
another
will
date.
do the
I think it's right in this
landscaping, the
room.
planning board will do the roads, they're just asking us for how many units, but the actual plan,
The design
the
will
actual
be the
design is done at the planning board.
Is there anything in this decision now that will keep them at some point coming back?
We only said yes, that they can develop what it looks like is the planning board.
More units, or these units? Is this a final done deal?
They could always
Yeah, we'll
apply.
They can
Yeah,
always
we
reapply.
can't.
But it would be
That's
this,
done.
Would
but
be
it,
another case.
yes, yes.
Okay, respectfully, we got another case we have to
We
hear.
have to read in.
That's okay.
We want to go
So,
home to...
Okay.
call City Hall, make sure you find out when the planning board meeting is.
Okay,
Okay.
folks, if you
And
could take
have
your
the people to-
conversations outside.
With that.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Mr. Clerk.
Yeah.
We have another
I know
case
you
going.
do.
I'm
Thank you-
sorry.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ready? Yeah, go ahead.
Our last case is 469 to 471 Maple Street, also Highway Corridor Zone. Request for a finding under Section 3.10.c and 3.10.b.2, and a variance under Table 3 of the Danvers Zoning Bylaw to allow the removal of an existing non-conforming three-family dwelling and the construction of new multifamily structure containing 15 residential units. Proposed structure will be closer to the side and rear property lines than permitted by right. Request is made by Nancy McCann, docket 23-5046.
Good evening.
Good evening again. My name is Nancy McCann. I'm here on behalf of 469 Maple Street LLC. With me tonight is Dan Corbett and Jay Martell with the LLC. Also with me tonight is Bob Griffin, the project engineer, and Senior. I can't pronounce his last name. He will pronounce it for you. He is the project architect from Seeger Architects, and we're here relative to the property at 469 and 471 Maple Street. Back on October 10th, we made a full presentation regarding the replacement of the existing non-conforming three-family dwelling. This is located in the Highway Corridor Zone, and replaced that with a new multifamily building, expanding the non-conforming use from 3 units to 15 units. We had a lively exchange that evening, and at the end of that meeting, the board and the applicant, I think, came to a consensus that we would reduce the number of units from 15 down to 13 units, which will give 1 affordable unit. And the board asked us if we could make the building, particularly the building elevations, more residential in appearance. So we were given that task to reduce the number of units to 13, which we have done, and to make the building more residential in appearance. And what we have done specifically, again, is to reduce the number of units. We now have 13 two-bedroom units. We've moved the third floor eave down, and the architect will explain this to you, which will decrease the floor massing, the roof massing, I should say. We've introduced some residential elements, the double-hung 6/1 windows, and other residential details throughout, both on the main elevation, the south and the north elevations as well. We have maintained 2 parking spaces for each unit. And we have also provided 2 visitor spaces. And the zoning bylaw does not require that visitor spaces be provided. However, we are providing 2 visitor spaces for the site. We are also maintaining the rail trail parking donation of 12 parking spaces on the adjacent town property for use for the expanded rail trail parking. And we would construct those parking spaces and also provide an easement over our curb cut and access into those 12 parking spaces. So I think at this point I will turn it over to Sanir, our project architect, to explain the elevation improvements that we've made.
And thank you. And just in interest of time, because it is getting late, if we could just keep, just right to,
brief.
just the changes from before to now.
Absolutely. My name's Sanir Lutfia from Seeger Architects. Nancy did a great job kind of going over the changes.
Just not pronouncing your name.
I'm sorry?
Just not pronouncing your name.
I'm a little used to that, so no, that's perfectly fine. We just tried to bring down the scale of the building. Previously, it was segmented a little bit more. We're trying to make it a little bit more uniform. We brought down the eave of the from the previous iterations, so it comes down to the second floor here in certain areas, reducing the scale of the building. And we also switched from what tend to be more contemporary casement windows to a more traditional 6/1 double hung window, more residential feel. That's pretty much it.
So really a window change out and some eave changes.
Lowering the roof and the bay, correct. Lowering the eaves of the roof. The bays become, we try to take into account the scale of the existing building and sort of translate it to these bays here. And then added another gable to reduce kind of that shed dormer that we had for the elevator to provide access to the units.
Yeah, and just a quick question. I believe Ken brought it up last time, but mechanicals for this building will be located where?
They are in the garage.
Okay,
floor
so
plan.
nothing up on the roof. Okay.
Correct. I believe they're labeled on the first or ground floor plan as a mechanical.
Very good. Okay, is that it?
Yeah.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
So really, this building didn't change in size, just so much in look, but we did reduce a couple units.
Right, we took down 2 units out and made it more residential in feel, and also changed the massing. We did provide to you in your packets before and after of the elevations, and I think on that you can really see where the change to the roof really does do what you asked us, which was to improve that and decrease the massing.
Yeah, sorry. So going from the 5 units that we had on the third floor to 3 units allowed us to bring the roof in
Okay.
and reduce the scale.
Very good. Thank you. Anything else to sum up?
Nope, that's it.
All
Happy
right,
to answer
all
any
right.
questions.
I'll turn it over to the board for questions. Jeff?
No questions, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Yeah, Ken?
No questions, thank you.
And Ken J? Yep.
I have no questions. No questions.
Karine?
I just have one question. So you went from 15 units down to 13, but you eliminated all the one-bedrooms. So basically, the bedroom amount is the same. Because if you have 11 times 2 is 22 and 4 is 26, and 13 times 2 is 26. So it's still the same amount of bedrooms, it's just that you eliminated the 2 units.
We eliminated the 2 units and this living space
Oh,
that
no,
goes
no, no,
along
I'm
with that.
just
But
thinking
total
of.
bedroom count, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's probably correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and Attorney McCann, so, and that answers, I think, my question. So the affordable unit would obviously be a 2-bedroom unit, because there are no 1-bedroom units?
That's correct.
Okay. And these 2-bedroom units, there'll be a parking spot for, 2 for each?
2 parking spaces for each.
And guest spaces on this?
2.
2.
Yes.
Okay. I don't believe I have any additional questions. We'll go out to the public. Anybody here like to speak and help me out with the address?
Chair, there is one person online
Online,
with their hand up.
469
Yep.
to 471 Maple Street. And Attorney McCann, I'm going to ask this again because I think I may have cut you off last time, and I'm not sure I did that. But help me out again on Old Maple Street versus Maple Street.
Okay. So,
What's the story?
the story is that the community thinks of this as Old Maple Street, with the exception of the Danvers tax assessor, who has this as Maple Street. And I noticed today the new signs that have been put up by the state say Old Maple Street for
Great.
the exit off of Route 1. But there we have it. And so for purposes of the application and...
It's Maple Street.
It's Maple Street.
But on maps and at the state level, it's known as Old Maple Street, and as Karine likes to say, the town elders probably also call this Old Maple Street.
It was old school.
Old school, Old Maple Street.
I think so. We ran into this same issue, remember, on
With the,
Danvers Animal Hospital.
With the, yeah, Danvers Animal, okay. All right, anybody here from the public, online, you have someone? If-
We have 2. So
Two
first will
people.
be David Craig, and and then next will be Joanne Wheelock again. So David, why don't... Hold on. All right, David, you should be able to unmute yourself and go right ahead.
Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you. My name is David Craig. I'm a resident at 370 Maple Street, Old Maple Street, right across from the animal hospital. How about that? I was unable to attend tonight. I'm a little bit under the weather, but I did want to speak
Can't
to
hear
this. I was able to attend the previous meeting. I am still in favor of this project. I think it's an excellent use of this piece of property that would otherwise continue to contain a dilapidated house and essentially an overgrown, abandoned, tiny little triangle lot. And I think that the applicant has done what the board has requested in reducing the number of units and softening the lines on the structure to make it more of a residential appearance. And something I failed to mention the last time I was at the previous meeting was that I think it's excellent that they're developing parking for the rail trail extension as part of this project. This is one of the biggest issues that rail trails have all around. A little more than a year ago, my family and I moved to Danvers from Saugus, which has an extensive rail trail that goes all the way from Lynn to the Mystic River, and there's almost no parking anywhere along it. So the opportunity to add several publicly accessible rail trail parking spaces is an excellent addition to the community, and I commend the developer for working that into this plan.
Thank you, Dave. I think we got most of what you said. You're in favor.
Okay, thank you.
And the next person,
absolutely.
Brian?
Yep, Joanne Wheelock, go right ahead.
Hi, good evening.
Thank you, Brian. Mr. Chairman, Joanne Rigucci, town meeting member, Precinct 2. I attended the last meeting online and looked at the plans, and you know, I liked them, but I took the opportunity to drive by the area with, you know, which I have many times over many years, and I wanted to drive by with a discerning eye with this project in mind. I find the property to be really a slither between both roadways, and I don't see this proposal as fitting into that area. It seems too big. It's way too big. And I know everyone is so excited about the parking for the rail trail, which is great. It's too bad that we just can't do that in that area instead of always being obsessed with land, you know, that is owned, that has to be developed, and we need affordable housing. And it seems like every little postage stamp now is going to be developed. I don't think just because we're, you know, it's really great the developer's throwing that in, but, you know, that's, you know, for them to sweeten the pot to be approved. I'd like to see maybe the town look into some sort of grant to receive monies to build on that land for rail trail access. You know, there's other ways to make that happen for the town and not have to build additional units. It's going to look good in that area. I don't like it, so I'm a no.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public here present with us? Anyone else online, Brian? Okay, Attorney McCann, anything to wrap up?
No.
Anything you'd like to address from the public comments?
I acknowledge that this is a sliver of land. We talked a lot about that at the last meeting. It's an irregularly shaped triangle on which you could put nothing that complies with the highway corridor zoning district. So this is a use, and expanding the non-conforming use. We already have a residential use here now in a reasonable way. We have the required amount of parking. We are not exceeding the height limitation in this district. This is a district set up for larger development. And what we're doing is trying to balance that with a reasonable size residential development that is going to provide some needed housing in a really good location for housing. This is on Route 62, basically, it's on Old Maple Street, but it's right there on Route 62. You've got Route 1 right there. You have the access to 95 right there as well. It's a perfect location for young professionals who are commuting to their jobs, and it will provide perhaps some housing for those who work at the that Leahy Danvers that's right across the street. And it does fit in well, I think. Architecturally, we've made it more residential, but if you look at the buildings that we have around this site, we have the United Civil office building that's right there, which is a very large building. That's right kitty corner from this. We have Leahy Danvers across the street, and certainly a lot of residential development up on the hill for Old Danvers State Hospital. So we think this does fit in well with the area and makes a reasonable use of this property that's irregularly shaped and zoned for highway corridor.
And this will go to site review?
Oh, absolutely.
And we did talk, I had talked or asked that if this were granted, that the signage for the public portion, the public parking for the rail trail, wouldn't be this afterthought of a directional sign of 2 feet by 2 feet or something that's not recognizable. Did we ever come to a condition on that or an agreement on a size, or Help me with that a little bit.
Yeah, we didn't come to terms on that, not because we disagree with it. That's makes sense. And what I would suggest is that that be provided as part of the site plan approval process. Typical directional sign is 4 square feet, 4 feet high. That's typical, and that's what's allowed under the
I guess
zoning.
what I'm asking is I would like something oversized. I want big. Bigger's better in this case, as far as I'm concerned. I want something that smacks the public in the head, that lets them know, hey, I can park here. And it doesn't get that appearance of this is private property, I can't come on here.
I would like to suggest that the applicant would work with planning staff to come up with an appropriate sign, because that sign is going to be technically an off-premise sign for the rail trail parking.
Sorry to interrupt.
How about we let Brian weigh in on that?
It probably would require ZBA approval.
Okay.
So it's hard to mandate that. You could request them to come back to you, but it's kind of a weird self-dealing kind of thing.
Well, we're trying to, yeah, you're right. We're trying to get something out of this. Self-serving for the town of Danvers.
Well, I mean, I think when it comes to any signage for the rail trail committee would be involved. Like there's more players here, so I think working with staff makes sense.
Okay. I
Because
just
it's
don't
not
want to
just
lose sight of
ZBA.
it, I think is the point. And I don't want, a minimalist sign, I guess.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead. Jeff.
My concern with the 12-space parking lot is that it's so close to this building, I would not want to see 24/7 parking
Of the building.
of building traffic, as we've seen on Hobart Street. That's supposed to be every 24 hours, everybody's out of that lot, and there are trucks and cars parked there eternally.
Yep.
And 12 spaces could quickly evaporate to 1 or 2 if residents parked their vehicles in that lot.
I think that would
I would
be
like
up
to
to
see a
the
sign that says
applicant,
no
so-
overnight parking in there.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's something.
That's what I would like
That's
to see.
reasonable, yes?
I would agree with that as well.
Sure, that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
We have no right for our residents to park.
Yeah.
in
Okay,
that.
like I said, I just think it's something that, it's something you have offered. And I think it's a good thing for the town. I think it's a good thing for the rail trail. And I just I want to make sure the right emphasis is put on it through signage.
Yep.
I mean, I know about it because I'm here learning about it, but it's 29,000 people in the town of Danvers, right? So.
Yeah.
And
I
they
would
don't all
suggest-
watch
yeah.
this lovely meeting, as you all know, so.
I'm always amazed at the people who watch this meeting. I would certainly, the applicant would certainly take a condition that we would work with staff and
Okay.
the rail trail committee, because there may be a branding sign
Yeah, no,
that the rail trail's
that puts
using.
it to bed for me. That's just, I wanted to make that point or that request. So I don't have any additional questions, and I will go out to the public. I think we've done that.
Did that,
So it's
yeah.
getting late, I'm getting foggy. I believe I started with you, Jeff, so we're going to deliberate. And Jeff,
I will vote for this.
thank you. Ken?
And yeah, I will echo what I said in the last meeting. I loved this project the way it was before, but that's fine, down to 13. I think the building looks great. Thanks for the new plans. I think it's the absolute perfect location for this. You're not trying to jam a building in downtown. It's out in the outskirts of town. I think it's perfect. I'm a yes.
Thank you.
I think it's a good location for this as well, and it helps out with the housing conundrum. And I would vote for this without even those spots for the rail trail, but it was offered, and I agree with the signage thing. Now that it's offered, we should really, because down by the Danvers Port Marina, there was a spot there, and you can't even see where people can go in and like put their boats in and stuff like that, or there are canoes. But yeah, I am a yes.
Green.
I agree with my other board members. I think the building design is very nice. It kind of fits in the area. Thank you for revising the plan to change the pitch of the roof and decrease by 2 units, so I am a yes.
Thank you, Corinne. And I too, Attorney McCann, I'm glad you've listened to our requests. I do think it's a better look. I do have concerns, as I pointed out, about pedestrian flow and the lack of sidewalk and crosswalk, and I hope that's something that obviously will get talked about at the planning board, but I just, I live off of Summer Street, and, Summer Street has a sidewalk that just abruptly ends. And that forces people out into the road, and that off-ramp being what it is there, I just hope we're not creating a safety situation. I hope the town and planning and DPW take a hard look at that, especially if the intent is to garner potential residents from a business across the street, and they would probably just park their cars at home and walk on nice days, right? So, but anyways, you do have the votes, and I'm glad you're going to take the condition to make the signage good. So if I could get a motion, please.
Want me to read it? Sure, I will. I make a motion to issue the finding under section 3.10.c and 3.10.b.2 of the Danvers zoning bylaw to allow the removal of an existing non-conforming 3-family dwelling and the construction of a new 13-unit residential structure, and that the proposed use is not more substantially detrimental than the current use.
I will second that.
Well, hold on, and with the condition to add signage for the rail trail parking and to work with planning staff for the creation of that.
So moved on that.
And
I've got a motion and a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good.
I also make a motion to issue a variance under Table 3 of the Danvers zoning bylaw, as the proposed structure will closer to the side, rear, and front setbacks than permitted as of right, in that this condition does not affect other properties and structures in the same zoning district. A literal enforcement of the zoning bylaw would involve substantial hardship to the applicant, and granting this variance will not create a substantial detriment to the public good and will not nullify or derogate from the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw.
I've got a motion
I will second that.
and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Good. We're like the Beatles, Ken. Yeah? Gotta sing into the same mic. Okay, a motion to adjourn, please. Wait a minute, sorry, I'll check on with Brian. Any additional business? Got
set.
you on overtime tonight. So.
All set, no worries.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And seconded.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night, Danvers.